the universe and saying, well, if the God exists, what would we expect to see? And if no God exists, what would we expect to see? And we start looking and we start realizing that the universe looks very much like if there is no God, because we see the entailments of this thing's existence. So the problem is that this whole concept is like, oh no, God is spaceless and timeless and outside reality and operates through miracles. Well, this is all just emotional appeal because it's an unfalsifiable claim. You're saying it's outside of reality, therefore it's not testable. We can't make predictions with it. It provides no useful information in explaining anything about the universe, especially in the face of better hypotheses that adhere to a stricter methodologies. So the problem is that God has been pushed to the edge of the board to the point that it's literally just a metaphysical concept that you can choose to believe in or not believe in based upon, for whatever reason. Now, we can logic that these things don't exist.
Right.
Okay, but to justify that it does, it's just an emotional appeal.
Okay, so...
But I also, before you do respond, I just want to point out that the laws of logic are tautologies. We are just saying them so that we are not crazy. Like J.L. Warren, we have been prescribing them. Well, it's really a description, I guess. Either way, we have discovered this for the past thousands of years. When it comes to science, we don't tend to use that sort of language. It tends to be philosophical circles. And in fact, I would say the majority would be theological circles. They tend to re-explain the laws of logic so that they can set up a lot of cosmological arguments. And so it's weird to come in and say, like, the atheists are obsessed. He in fact said that the atheists created the laws of logic, which is just silly. But still sending love out to him. But the laws of logic tend to be an obsession with theists at this point. Atheists will explain it to our theist counterparts, but I don't understand what them not existing. You don't have to convince us that they don't exist for them to talk about a God. Because to me it just leads to incoherence. But once again, welcome TJump, and right back to you, Timeless.
All right, so okay. Let's I want to put out a statement. Okay, let's imagine. Let's just scrap everything that we just talked about. Let's think of human concepts, right? So, let's say we were thousands and thousands of years ago. We were undeveloped educationally, and we didn't know about space, right? We did not know that space existed. Now, what we knew is that gravity did exist, right? When you jump, you go back down on Earth. You go back down on the floor. You don't just keep flying up. So what happens is you free fall, and we're able to witness that. Ever since mankind has started, we're able to witness that free fall does exist. You jump and you go back down, right? And at the process of you going back down is free fall, and that's a human concept. Now, say you're in the middle of space, you're isolated, far away from any gravitational pull. You're not free falling because free fall does not truly exist in the majority view. What happens is you're just floating. You're not really moving at all. You don't have no energy towards you. You're just staying in place. So if I were to go to you and I were to tell you, this exists, and you would say, okay, well, does it apply with the laws of logic? It would not apply with the laws of logic, because free falling is the only thing that you're mentally able to process, because that's the only thing that you're able to witness in the present time.
Timeless. There's a little flaw in your plan, because there's nowhere in the universe where there is no gravity.
Wait, you said it wouldn't apply.
It can be so little that the effects barely show, and you need instruments to measure them, but there still would be influence of gravity no matter where you are in space.
Wait, would free fall be a contradiction though?
So just to clarify, is he saying that the laws of logic don't apply to God? That's what he's arguing?
Yeah, they don't apply to God. They don't apply to things that we can't understand humanly at the present time right now.
Does God exist?
So Peter, let's say,
quick question to solve this. Is Allah also Mary, the mother of Jesus?
Sorry, can you
Is Allah also the Mary, the mother of Jesus?
No.
So timeless. What he's asking
then
is
the
timeless.
laws
What
of
he's
logic
asking.
apply to Allah.
It sounded like he wasn't grabbing it. The problem is you just said that the laws of logic don't apply to God. Okay,
Right.
that's fine. You can hold that position. The laws of logic do not apply to God. This means that A equals A is not equal to not A, that these don't apply to this God that you're asserting. Okay. But what this logically entails is that God can both exist and not exist simultaneously. God is both God and not God simultaneously.
Exactly.
Because you have defined it this way, it is logically incoherent.
All right, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna reword myself. It's not that it doesn't apply; it's that it can't apply. You cannot apply it to God. You
Okay,
can't.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
God is not God.
The same entailment.
No. It's that God is God, but yes,
no, timeless.
If God is God, then the laws of logic apply to him.
It's
It's that
timeless.
the
easy.
laws of logic is a human concept, just like how you see free fall. That is a human concept.
Timeless. Stop. When you state that a thing exists, you automatically invoke the laws of logic because
Exactly.
you are stating that it exists as opposed to not existing. All right. So the thing, you've already invoked them just by stating that, which means that the laws of logic do apply to God if this thing even exists. If it exists by virtue of its own existence, that means it is itself and it is not anything that is not God.
Yeah.
Which means that it is God. There is a distinction between what is God and what is JL, and what is TJump, and what is Peter, and what is the planet, and what is the moon, so on and so forth. So you cannot state that the laws of logic don't apply to this thing while also stating that it does exist. These are contradictory positions that lead to logical incoherence.
Okay, fine. Let me say that God is God and nothing else is not God. All right. Let me say that it does apply.
Okay.
But what then? How does this prove me wrong?
What's your
Because
argument?
Most theists use
Unless-
the laws of logic. They try to use it against us to try and come in here and say the laws of logic
Unless-
are something that atheists try to put forward as why God doesn't exist. In my opinion, is silly. I've never seen an athist do that.
What's your
Well,
argument?
first it was-
Let me help you. Let me help you out.
Sorry, just a sec. It's an
Timeless.
interesting. It's an interesting progression from the earlier claim by somebody else that their laws of logic are just made up by people and have nothing to do with God, and now to say what Amy just highlighted. It's interesting how things move around so much with this.
Timeless. What's your argument? What is your original claim?
My original claim is that how can you apply something that's human made to something that's divine? Because we had a person
human-made.
earlier that we had a person earlier that claimed that God exists, and then someone here from the panel
Not-
used the laws of logic, and we're not able to identify it properly.
Timeless.
Wait,
It's not
wait.
human made. It is how we
No, it is-
describe
it is-
it is
reality.
Yeah,
human.
okay,
So-
Peter,
hold
Peter,
on,
who's
hold on.
Peter?
Do you
Who's
think
we?
that
Who's
God-
we? Who's
sorry.
we? We are
Do you think
humans.
that God
Human
is?
beings.
You think God is
We need-
not
we
human?
need-
Sorry,
we
do
need
you think
a
God is
tool
not
to
human made?
describe reality.
Guys,
Sorry, do
This
you think
tool-
God is not human made?
Can I give this a shot? Do you guys all stop for a minute and just because
I wanted to just finish. Maybe I can help Timeless out.
I don't think
you
so.
guys
What you
can go
are
ahead.
looking, what you are looking for is that the laws of logic have to apply to God. Otherwise, He is not God. That's one.
That doesn't help.
But what you're looking for is that God might be able to suspend the laws of logic when interacting with reality. If you go from that standpoint, you could actually make an argument. But the moment you say that the laws of logic do not apply to God, then God is not God, and we're already done.
That doesn't I
All
don't
right,
think that
fine.
helps at all.
Let's say that. Let's just say that I said before. Let's say that the laws of logic do apply to God, and God is God itself. But how does that prove that God does not exist?
It doesn't.
Is someone here used
It
it?
doesn't. It doesn't.
Right. So why did you
It
say
doesn't prove
to?
that God exists. It also doesn't prove that God does exist.
Wait.
How
So
does
That
it
is
not-
the
one sec,
problem-
one sec,
that is
one
the
sec, Peter.
problem
One sec,
that
one sec,
You're,
You guys,
you're faced
my
with
God.
here, and this is what we
Oh my
would like
God.
you to do is bring us something so that we could accept that God exists.
Okay, so Timeless, you said that your original claim was that you can't use human concepts to describe God, the divine, right? That's
Right,
what you said.
yeah.
So if I can make up a human concept that says here is the divine and here is the not divine, that's using a concept to differentiate things, right? So I can say the divine, the word divine, describes the divine things, and the word not divine describes the not divine things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can make up a concept like the word divine and apply it to the divine things, can't I?
Yeah, but that's just a word.
Right. So that's a human concept.
You're
Word.
describing it. No. You're describing it. What I mean is that you can't. For example, you can't use a math question in order to solve.
What TJump
No.
is
Peter,
saying
let him
is
finish.
that
Peter,
if you
let him
don't
finish.
have
No,
human
Peter, stop.
concepts to
Peter, stop. Peter,
describe
stop. Holy
God,
shit, stop.
can't
Peter,
describe
shut up.
God.
Peter, stop. Let him finish. It's timeless. Go ahead.
So you can't use a math question in order to find God. You can't use the laws of logic, which are laws placed by humans to define God. God is a miracle. God is a divine thing, right? Right. The things that He does are miracles
Wait,
to us.
no, Peter, shut up.
How
Peter,
do you
shut up.
define
Peter,
God?
shut up. Let him finish. Holy shit, Peter.
So my definition of God is divine, because everything that we've seen that may be out of the abnormal or out of the human concept of just being
Well,
able
give
to
us
understand.
Oh my
your
God!
definition.
Somebody mute Peter. Stop
Peter, do
interrupting
you
him.
not hear TJump talking with him? Give him a moment, man.
So
Just was
For
Stop
example,
talking. Just stop talking, Peter.
So for example, like let's say that how
So I just want to
Prophet
clarify. Are you saying
Moses.
that we can't use human concepts like logic and math to prove God? Is that your argument?
You can't use any human concept to prove God. Yeah, you can say that, oh, God is divine, but divine is a descriptive word. It's just you're just saying what's going on. You know what I mean? But you can't apply law. You can't apply laws and formulas to understand what God is. God is divine. God is like everything that God does is a miracle to us. We don't understand it. We can't understand it. We can't comprehend it. Can you comprehend how Mary was a virgin? No, you can't. You can't. Can you comprehend how?
Wait, I can comprehend those just fine. So like we can use human evidence to show God exists just fine. So like if I say, God, I believe in you, please give me a gold brick, and a gold brick appears in front of me, that would be great evidence of a God. So I don't understand why you think we can't use human reasoning to justify the belief God exists. So I mean, it sounds like you're arguing for our side, because we kind of agree that there's no evidence of a God, but it's possible to provide evidence of a God using human reasoning.
No, there's absolutely evidence that there's a God. Everywhere is evidence that there's a God. Everything that we do is evidence that there's a God.
But wait, I thought
That
you
makes
just
no
said
sense.
Okay,
that we
so-
can't use human reasoning to indicate the divine, but all of the evidence is human reasoning to indicate the divine.
Sorry, can you repeat what you said?
So your original argument is that we can't use human concepts to indicate the divine, but evidence is human concepts, right? So if there's evidence of the divine, that means we're using human concepts to indicate the design.
No. Evidence is the miracles that happens within humans. Like you can't.
But we have to interpret those, right? We have to be like, here's a miracle, and this miracle was done under these circumstances, which indicates God, right?
So okay, so what I think what you're meaning of comprehending them is literally just witnessing it happen, right? Is that what you mean?
Well, no, because I can witness it happen and not understand that it was done by. Are you Muslim? So Allah.
Yeah.
So I can see a miracle happen, but if I don't
Right.
actually understand the backstory of the Quran, I don't understand who Muhammad is. I don't understand the context in which the miracle happened. Just seeing a miracle doesn't indicate who or what did it, right? So to understand that this miracle was done and it was done by Allah, you have to know who Allah is. You have to know the story of the Quran. You have to show that this miracle correlates to the Quran, and all of those things are human logical concepts that we use to build evidence.
Which is why I asked for the definition of his God, because I would be really curious what a definition of God would be without using human concepts.
Okay, so definition of God would be a divine entity that we cannot understand. So what TJump said.
What is divine?
Divine, exactly. We can't describe divine.
No,
you can't
no.
describe.
What do you mean when you say the word divine?
Things beyond
Something
human
abnormal,
comprehension. That's what it
beyond,
means.
yeah, like abnormal. Like you can't
But
calculate.
timeless. You just contradicted yourself. If we can't understand it, then we can't call it divine, because divine is a human concept.
No.
You
Divine
can
is
do
just
that. You can do that. So that's like hold
divine
up.
is description of a human concept that we don't understand.
So timeless is fine to do this.
not.
It's like dark energy or dark matter. We can put a label on some category that we don't understand just fine. So if he's saying divine is
Right.
all of the things beyond human comprehension, so I imagine he'd
Mhm.
formally put it like divine is all the things that it's not even possible for humans to understand but still exist or something
Exactly.
like that.
Right. So we're just putting a label on it, but we can't really calculate it. We can't really understand why it happened, how it happened, because let's use Mary.
But wait.
You
So
can't.
that's really interesting. So if we can't understand how or why it happened, then
yeah.
why do you think God did it? So if we can't understand, say a miracle happens in
Mhm.
front of you and you can't
Mhm.
understand what caused it, then could just be a natural process you don't know about,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. That's why there's holy texts that prove on why it happened, who did it. We know why it happened and who did it because of the holy.
Are the
Text.
holy texts, are they written down by humans?
They are written down by humans, delivered.
Do the holy texts contain human concepts?
The holy texts contain descriptions of how it happened to humans.
Do they contain human concepts?
Okay, can you like elaborate? What do you mean?
Are they made of
Like
words?
marriage, punishment,
Mhm.
slavery, man, woman, things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. According to you, that wasn't possible.
That was impossible to what? Bro, a divine entity can do anything.
Wait.
A
So
divine
if
entity
we
can talk
see a
to
No,
miracle,
you said you can't define God and you can't figure out anything
Right.
about God with
So-
using human
Alright.
concept. And now you say we need to go to the scriptures, who the only thing human scriptures
Exactly.
do is give you human concepts in
Peter?
order to describe your God. So you're already contradicting yourself. Either we
No.
can or we cannot use
Peter,
human
I
concepts.
have the perfect answer. Perfect answer for that. Why would a divine entity communicate with their own creation in a way that they cannot understand? Do you know what I mean? That's why the scriptures and the holy texts they communicate with us
does
with
that,
comprehension.
I agree. And if it does that, then we can define God using human concepts.
Okay,
Because the God has provided us with the human concept
Mhm.
that we need as a tool to define what the God is and what
But
he wants.
specifically the miracles that God has done. We
Yeah,
cannot.
but timeless. There's a lot of issues here. For one, I have no idea what you're defining as a miracle or how you differentiate between a
Alright.
miracle and a natural process
Perfect.
and a natural process that you don't have an understanding for.
Can I give you an example?
Two, hang on a sec. Two, you're referencing holy texts. I'm assuming like the Quran, okay,
Mhm.
that gives explanations for particular things. So you're saying that this unknowable, ununderstandable entity is speaking coherently with human beings to describe certain effects in the world that we observe. But then this book was 1900 years old. And then today we
1400.
look back and we understand that they got much of that wrong. So, for example, there is no identification of germs in the Quran, or the germ theory of disease. All right. So, or no concept of cells.
Right.
Like,
But
you know,
why would a divine?
but hang on a sec. But if that was the truth, if cells existed, or say if germs exist, and the reason why people got cholera and dysentery and died from this at like the age of 30, because they for whatever reason, then you'd think that Allah would dictate that was what was going on, but that's not what was going on. So why was it articulating incorrect things?
Okay,
in the
how
past?
is it describing incorrect things? Like where did it say that it was saying incorrect things? Because I don't find anything incorrect.
Okay, for example, one thing that we understand is that an interpretation of people who were once thought to be an interpretation of schizophrenia, it was once probably in the ancient world interpreted to be demonic possession, or the maybe fairies or changelings and stuff like this.
Sure.
So, for example, that's how like changelings are probably what the changeling children are probably used to describe autism, like way back in the day. Like all of a sudden the child changed. So that perfectly describes autism. But schizophrenia, extreme schizophrenia, could be interpreted as being possessed by something, seeing things that are not there, hearing things that don't exist, acting in extremely irrational ways, extremely aberrant behavior. Now, we know that it's not demonic possession. We know that it's mental illness. Okay, we understand why it happens. We understand there's a genetic corollary. We understand what's going on in the brain when these things take place. So why would the Bible refer to demonic possession and make no differentiation with mental illness?
I'm Muslim, I'm not Christian, so.
Oh, well, so why would the Quran do this? Why would the Quran speak of demons and demonic possession, but it would not talk about mental illness? And why wouldn't Allah dictate to us how to differentiate between someone who is just mentally ill and someone who is legitimately affected by a demon?
Right. Would you like me to use Prophet Muhammad for an example? Because he was.
No, I'm asking you, why didn't Allah choose to make that differentiation so that we could make better determinations about how to help people in the real world?
Because that is irrelevant to your faith to him. That is irrelevant to your loyalty to him. Why does he have to tell you something that is not going to help your relationship with God himself?
Because treating someone who is mentally ill like they are demonically possessed does not help that person. And if we help people and we get them better,
Quran never states that you're demonically possessed if you're mentally ill.
It makes no differentiation between the two. It never actually says anything about mental illness.
Right. And it doesn't say anything about anything.
It talks about demonic possession, but not about mental illness.
Because demonic possession is something to do with divine, something to do with.
Okay, but how could people 1900 years ago tell the difference between a schizophrenic and someone who's demonically possessed if all they're going off of is the Quran?
Sorry. Okay. So you're saying basically is, how can we know whether someone is schizophrenic or just demonically possessed?
No, I'm asking you why. I'm saying Allah, by the way you've defined it, would know the difference between a demonically possessed person
But why would he
and a schizophrenic person. So why wouldn't Allah tell people how to differentiate between the mentally ill and the demonically possessed so that we could help them better? Because the tactics used to help demonically possessed people will not work on a mentally ill person. And the tactics used to help a mentally ill person won't work on a person who is demonically possessed.
Right.
So that's an important distinction to make if demons exist. So why wouldn't Allah tell us how to do that correctly?
All right. So say he does mention that, right?
But he doesn't.
No, but say he does. Let's say in a world where he does, right?
Okay.
How would that affect the relationship to a person to God? How would that help you believing in God?
That would be that entity giving human beings a better understanding of reality than what they currently had. That would mean that would be at least one indicator that it is giving us that it itself is able to give us a better understanding of reality.
All right.
If you respond, Timeless, I want to ask you a question.
So sorry, what were you saying, Amy?
After you respond, I'm sure you want to respond to JL, but after that, I just want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
all right,
so
no
that would be an indicator that this God can give us information that we didn't currently have that can help us to better assist one another and better understand its nature and relationship to us. But it doesn't do that.
Because God is not an entity there to serve you, brother. He's your creator. He does not care whether you want more medical studies from God himself. He does not care about that.
That's not
cares
what that's
about
not,
your
no,
faith.
No.
You're asking me.
Timeless. You're jumping. No, Timeless. You're jumping past this.
Right.
I'm saying that Allah knows the differentiation. Okay, so Allah knew the differentiation when it passed down the Quran. Human beings did not know the differentiation. So why would Allah give human beings misleading information? Because if Allah does not exist and human beings were just coming up with this themselves, then it would make sense that mentally ill people would be determined to be demonically possessed because we didn't understand mental illness. But Allah does understand mental illness because Allah, by your definition, knows all true propositions, and therefore it would understand, which means if it didn't pass this information along, then it was being deliberately misleading. Okay, and if the God is being deliberately misleading, then why the hell would I ever worship it? Because I'd never be able to tell if it was lying or not lying to me.
Right. So, okay, I have a question for you, Warren, that's relevant to your...
Allah is the greatest of all deceivers.
Before you ask that question, can I
was just going to say that, Taco.
Sorry, what did you say? Sorry, what were you saying?
Does God want us to know that they exist at all?
At a certain extent, yes. That's why it's a test, right? At a
Well,
certain extent.
that's funny you said that. I normally ask people, like, the question right after that was going to be about your holy book, and the question right after that was going to be, is this all a test? But you got me right there. So, I dislike the notion. It could be a test. I think that's really odd that we have to go by a holy book now. But prophets and people at the time, when the prophets were living, they all got first-hand interaction with God. But it just, don't you think it seems odd that now that we have cell phones and technology that can actually record miracles, that miracles have become much more lame and tame, and it's not the type of stuff that we actually see in the Quran? And why this test? Because it just seems like God is being coy, because if you read the Quran, he really, 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 really does not like disbelievers. Like, he'll make, the Christians and the Jews secondhand citizens. He's like, whatever. But he really dislikes disbelievers. So I don't get this
Amy,
test.
can I expand on your question before he answers?
Sure, because that is my question.
Just a little a qualifying question for you, Timeless. Is Allah all-knowing?
Is Allah, sorry, what?
Is Allah all-knowing?
What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate? Like,
Does he know everything?
Does
Of
it
course.
know
Does he
all?
know
Does it
everything?
know all true propositions?
absolutely. And just before you continue, let me just answer.
Timeless. Hold on. I just needed a yes or no. If he knows all true propositions, why does he need to test us?
So why does he need to? Sorry, what?
Why does he need to test us if he already has the answer?
Well, because if you go to someone and he tells you, oh yeah, you stole that car, for example, right? You wouldn't know yourself if you stole something. You know what I mean? You have to actually
But
do
Allah,
the action.
Allah wouldn't know either.
Can we go back to
Allah
Amy's
wouldn't know either.
question?
He's testing us.
Amy? What was your question?
Yeah, sorry, let me just answer Amy's question first. Amy, so you said that, why would God, who's testing everybody, really, really not like disbelievers? God that is very, supposed to be the creator of all, caring of all, right? That's your question.
Seems like if his goal is to get the most believers, and it really peeves him when you don't believe him, then it seems like he should just do what he did for Muhammad and the other people of the time. Come down, talk with us.
All right, so Amy, the answer to your question is that the God, he does hate disbelievers, but God is also extremely merciful, right? The God is extremely merciful. They say that God is like Allah is more merciful than your own mother, right?
Aside from all the aside from all the Hindus and the Christians that the Muslims killed, correct?
Aside from all the Hindus.
If that's the case, Timeless, why did he even go to Muhammad and dictated the Quran?
For what? What are you asking?
You just said God is merciful, so he doesn't really care if you believe or not believe.
No, he does.
Why
Absolutely, he does. But he's extremely merciful. He wants you to repent. He wants you to understand that God exists. He wants to test your loyalty to him. He wants to really see that.
He doesn't want to give us a sign that he exists.
He has given you signs. He has given you signs that he exists.
Timeless.
What?
These individual signs that you're talking of, no matter what you bring up, we can always, and we have. TJump has done it. Randolph has done it. I have done it. Peter has done it. All of us have looked at these signs that you bring up, and we can always break them down to either confirmation bias or arguments from incredulity, or we can always break them down to a logical fallacy. Okay?
Right.
There's nothing concrete. There is
Exactly.
nothing concrete that this entity. There is nothing concrete that this entity has given us. Okay.
Right, so you're automatically saying to me that whatever I give you, right, it's going to be invalid.
Timeless. I will entertain this. Give me your best sign from Allah. Let's break that down.
All right. I'm gonna give you one that I know of a lot.
The best sign that Allah gave us to let us know that He exists.
Do you want it to be written in the Quran, like something that's like a miracle?
Just give us yours, dude.
I want your best sign. the one you know of. You don't have to be exactly specific. I'm just asking for your best sign that Allah gave us that He exists. It's not a trick
All right.
question.
Yeah, just give me a second. Is it fine if I grab my Quran's like near my room?
Sure.
All right, give me a second.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah,
okay,
no
hang on a
problem.
sec. Hang on a sec. Timeless. Hang on a sec. I know he just. I don't know if he can still hear me, but we just asked for his best
Sorry,
evidence.
sorry,
Now,
what?
so timeless. Like I just said,
Yep.
you could bring up anything, and we can break that down to why
Yep.
it's fallacious. Okay.
Mhm.
So you're literally saying your best evidence that this best thing for a sign that this thing exists,
Mhm.
and you're going to the Quran.
Yeah, because it's the holy book. It's the words of God.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. But doesn't that presume it already exists for the Quran to be true?
Sorry, what is it?
Doesn't that presume it already exists for the Quran to be true? So
What do you mean?
anything you pull from the Quran,
Yeah.
how can I determine that exists? Just because the book exists doesn't mean what the book says in it actually exists. For example, Spider-Man lives in New York, and I know that New York exists. Does that mean Spider-Man exists? No, it does not. Yes,
No, I'm not. I was not gonna get you. Yeah.
Hang on, but you're going to the Quran. Do places that exist in reality, are they written about in the Quran? Absolutely. Does that entail that Allah exists? No, it does not.
Why doesn't it? Like
It
why?
doesn't logically entail that it does. You have
But
to
why?
demonstrate that the thing exists first before the Quran itself could be true.
I don't agree.
I'm willing to. I'm
Why?
willing to
I-
entertain. I'm
Warren,
willing
I-
to entertain his best evidence. Please let him.
All right,
give
let me
his
just
best
grab my book. I'll
evidence
be
and
back.
then look at that specifically. I think we could argue that the Quran. We don't have to believe the Quran. I just did an hour and a half with a Christian who couldn't give me a single reason to believe the Bible. I think we're going to go down the same route here.
The problem with going to the Quran is that we can break down any particular surah and we can say, well, this is the reason this, but then he's just going to come back with well, you're taking it out of context. That's the problem with that, is that there are contextual interpretations of the Quran that are malleable, that can move around, and he constantly gets to weave around the swords of logical entailment to that.
And-
If he goes to the Quran, that presumes the Quran is true because it exists. Just because the book says that it exists, in order that reasoning is circular.
Well, not
I'm
necessarily.
willing to
Like,
give him the benefit of the doubt that what he says, that he will give me sufficient context in order to grasp the
It is
evidence that
getting
he provided.
about time to move on to the next guest too. So
Yeah, timeless. Come on with your
Sorry, I'm
best
back.
evidence.
All right. I heard that you guys don't have much time left. You want to go back to you want to go to the next person.
Give me
So I'm
your
just gonna-
best evidence. Your best evidence that Allah
right.
gave us that He exists.
All right, I'm gonna give you something that everybody knows. All right.
Okay.
How was Prophet Muhammad illiterate, like literally cannot read and write? How was he able to deliver a book? Because you think
I don't know. Hold on. Let's break. Time out. Let me respond.
Mhm.
I don't know that Muhammad was illiterate. I don't know that God dictated anything to him,
Mhm.
or that he wrote it down. I can't go check that. So next.
Okay,
I'd say
you also don't know that
timeless. I would say he delegated to others. Real simple answer.
he how can he delegate to others?
actually
If
has the answer here.
He actually, according to I think some of the hadith, he had scribes, so that's not a problem.
okay, I can use the same argument that Peter just used against me right before you said that statement. I could just say, "Oh well, I don't know that."
Here's the thing. The thing you just brought up
Yeah.
is an evidence that maybe Muhammad was part of how the Quran came into existence. It says nothing about Allah existing.
All right, let me grab you the verse. Then.
I want your best evidence that everyone has had.
I'm gonna
according
get
to
you
Before we move
that
on,
Allah exists.
can I just convince you, Timeless, of this point? My question to you is, what makes more sense to you, that a leader of the time had access to scholars who were able to actually dictate what his views and beliefs were, that an angel from God came down and just gave him the book?
Right. You see,
We're
now
getting
we're
away-
gonna have
we
a
don't-
now we're gonna
we
have
don't
a
we don't have a lot of time. Let's stick to this one thing. The best evidence
Sure, but you
that
haven't
Allah
convinced
gave us
him that.
for his existence, because if we're going to go down the rabbit hole of Muhammad and how the Quran came into existence, we're going to be here tomorrow. I want one thing that is specific just for Allah, that Allah gave us, everyone, people who don't have a Quran, knowing that he exists.
All right, just 1 second, Peter. Amy, this everything that you said like right now is a complete assumption. We don't know that that's exactly what happened. You don't know that
Timeless.
George Washington
Let's skip
became.
this.
All right,
Let's skip
all right,
this.
all right,
You
all right.
said
I'm gonna.
that everyone was presented evidence of Allah's existence. That includes the people who do not have a Quran or never had access to a Quran. I want your best piece of evidence for people who do not have a Quran, never had access to a Quran, have no clue who Muhammad is, have no clue what the Quran says. What is your best evidence for Allah?
All right, just 1 second. I'm opening it up. It's just a simple sign on the book. It's something that you guys can understand. Hold on.
Well, I mean, he already presented like 3 things already, or a lot more than that.
If you're going to the book, then you don't understand my question.
You're asking me to give you a sign that can somehow present that a divine entity exists.
I specifically said, give me something that Allah gave me if I never have heard of the Quran.
We need to move on to the
never
next.
read the
Yes,
Quran,
Peter, we've got other
never
people
heard
in
of
queue.
Allah. What sign did Allah give me to make sure that I know that he exists?
He has given you many signs. The many signs are in the book, Peter.
Here's a quick tip. It's not in the Quran because I don't have a Quran.
What do you mean?
Can I just say this last thing to you, Timeless?
You made a
Please do it.
claim. You
Please
made a
do it.
claim that everyone knows that Allah exists because he gave us signs
When
of
did I-
his existence.
Oh yeah.
If you say that, then you can come up with something.
I'm gonna
isn't
give you
in
a
the-
sign.
That isn't. Hold on. That is not in the Quran. That you don't have to ask me to go to the Quran because I don't have access to one. Give me a
Okay.
sign
Yeah. I'm
that
gonna
Allah
give you
gave
something
me.
like that right now.
Everybody stop. We're going to give Timeless 1 minute to explain this sign. Is
Mhm.
that good enough time for you, Timeless? And then I think we're going to be trying to end it here, okay?
I'm good with that. It's not. No, you don't get it.
Peter?
Give me something.
Peter?
Give me something other than the Quran.
Okay. Peter, we're going to give him 1 minute, and then after that you can object.
Okay.
He's done after 1 minute.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And we know that that is incorrect
How is that? Okay, buddy. How is that?
because it does mix. It does mix.
Does it mix to the human eye? Does it mix to the human
Yes.
eye?
Yes.
Here,
Oh,
I'm
it does
gonna.
not.
Very
posting a
obvious to
screenshot
the
of it.
human eye. It mixes. Yes.
How does it
Peter,
mix?
don't overtalk me too. Come on. I'm posting a screenshot of it happening in Heathen Hangout chat. This is actually something you can see from shore in multiple places throughout the world.
Yes.
And can I just say, you said it was assumed that, or we're assuming that it's scholars. I'm not assuming it's scholars. I'm really asking you, which do you think makes more logical sense? Can I tell you? Let's say a different, a Christian comes to you and says, look, there was a actual prophet in between Jesus and Muhammad, okay? And not only was he illiterate, but he was blind. So
All right.
he had no way of being able to write this book. How could it possibly anything but an angel, Timeless?
All right, Amy, I will answer that right now. Taco, that's exactly that perfect. You know, the picture describes what I'm saying perfectly. There's a barrier in between them.
The problem is that if you go underwater just a few feet, you can see it mixing. That might not be something that Taco
because,
can just pull up, but we know the water is mixing. So
If you go
next
underwater,
one.
you cannot see. Literally, you cannot see.
You can literally see it.
If you go underwater,
see-
there's a certain amount of sunlight that comes into it.
Can I
makes-
finish? Can I finish?
Okay, go for it.
Underwater, you can see the gradient where the two waters mix.
All right, show me.
Yes.
Show me.
I don't have a picture here right now, but you can,
Can you
go
get me a
look it up.
picture? I got you a verse. Can you get me a picture?
So Taco
can-
is
you can
correct.
go look it up.
Taco is correct. We do have to move on, but timeless something that you need. But so we just close this out. Timeless something that you really do need to consider. Considering your first claim that how could an illiterate person dictate the
Yep.
Quran or make the Quran?
Oh, you want me to answer?
And
Amy?
no, I don't.
No,
You need to consider this. How are you able to determine the difference between a person who is being informed by this entity that you say is out there, and then dictating it to people who wrote it down?
Right, you can't
And someone,
because
and someone who is just making it up and dictating it to people who write it down. How
Right,
can you determine the difference between those two?
right, you can't because it's a divine.
Boom.
It's a
That's
divine.
it. No, timeless. There is no. You simply
Brother,
cannot. You
Warren,
cannot
Warren,
determine
I've
the
told you
difference.
from the start, brother.
So
I've told you from
no.
the start. At a certain extent, God will not offer you all the evidence because
Sorry,
he's exercising your faith. He is seeing if you are going to remove all the.
Timeless. Stop. Then the onus is on your God, and is not on us. If the God
Yes.
refuses
And-
to give evidence of itself, that is not on us. That is on your God.
He has given evidence of himself.
It is
He has.
not. He is not.
Yes, he
Okay,
has. Yes, he
anything-
has.
no.
What he
we
hasn't
move on
done is
now?
he hasn't showed it to you.
Timeless.
Timeless, let me
Everything
te-
that you can
Timeless,
present,
let me help you
everything
out.
that
Let's-
you can
let's-
present,
can we
each
move on
one
now?
of us on here has knocked down at one time or another.
Can we move on now?
Okay.
Timeless, let me help you out.
No, let's
Taco
not. Let's
posted
not keep going.
pictures.
Let's move
All right,
on. Let's
we're
move on
gonna
to
go
the
ahead
next
and move
one.
on. He said way
I
too
want,
much
I
time.
want, I want to get
No,
this
no
out.
more, Peter. It's
Taco
over.
posted
We're
the
moving on, Peter.
pictures. On those pictures, there's nothing that indicates that Allah is doing this. Nothing whatsoever.
Yeah, it's just a
It could be a
difference
different.
in
It could be a
density of water.
different God.
Okay, let's.
It could be a
let's move on.
different God. It could be any God. It could be just physics.
Thank you, Peter. All right. Apostolic agent, I welcome.
Sorry,
Hello.
just before we go on, I'd just like to quickly comment what for our audience for what being talked about there and the lovely pictures Taco is posting in the Discord chat. There's a part of the ocean where you've got salt, more salt content in the water and not. And the claim that's being made in the Quran, as I understand it, is that salt water and fresh water can't mix. Anybody can do this experiment at home. You take a glass of water without any salt in it and another glass that's got all kinds of salt in the water, and you mix them together, and you will find that it's a little less salty, but it's mixed. Very easy experiment to do to refute that part of the Quran. Now, apologists are probably going to try to have some other explanation on it, and whatever that explanation is, you can count on that being a lot more complicated than the simple experiment you can do in your own kitchen. Thank you very much. Welcome, Apostolic Agent.
Hello, Happy New Year. So my contention is, I'm not trying to prove theism here. I'm trying to prove that perhaps you're better off taking agnosticism than atheism as your perspective. So is it okay if I lay out my argument for about
Sure.
1 minute?
But I need to clarify, agnosticism and atheism are parallel classifications. Agnosticism deals with not having the knowledge of something and of deities existing, and whereas atheism is focused on not believing. So you're saying that we should start believing something and abandon atheism, in effect, is what it sounds like to me. But go ahead with your argument.
Okay, so part one. Okay, so there is no firm basis upon which to judge that theism or atheism is intrinsically more probable than the other. Part two. There is no firm basis upon which to judge that the total evidence favors theism or atheism over the other. It follows from 1 and 2 that 3. There is no firm basis upon which to judge that theism or atheism is more probable than the other. If hold on, I repeated that one. Okay.
Yeah, your argument is perfectly fine. It makes sense. It's valid. It's just unsound. So, premise one is false. There is a firm basis to affirm the probability of atheism is greater than theism.
Can you provide that, please?
Sure. All of the things that we imagine are predominantly figments of our imagination. Very, very rarely do they correspond to reality. And so until evidence is provided for any given hypothesis, it's more rational to conclude that it's imaginary than real. And so God, as any hypothesis, is more likely to conclude it's imaginary until evidence is presented. No evidence has been presented, therefore it's rational to conclude it's imaginary and not real.
Sure. So I pretty much
Okay.
agree with you. So, but my thing is that I think it'd be a bit more honest, to use the word agnosticism, because what you're basically doing, you're sort of delaying your vote on whether this intelligence is actually real or not.
Well, no, I'm saying
Because
it's not real. I'm saying it does not exist.
Okay, I'm an atheist. You're saying that I'm being dishonest by saying I don't believe in any deities?
no, I'm saying that agnosticism would be more productive of the term.
Why?
No,
I mean,
not necessarily. Depends
No.
on the context of the conversation.
In what sense?
Being an atheist only means one thing. You do not believe that a God exists. Being an atheist does not mean that you believe no gods exist.
Well, clearly he's
Is
trying
that
to argue
helpful?
that saying no gods exist is less rational than saying we don't know. No, I understand the
I agree
argument he's
with
trying to
that.
make, but I want to say let's
I do agree
address.
with that point, actually.
Well, no, I don't. That's why I want to address what he's actually saying. I think it's more rational to say God does not exist than to be agnostic and to say he may or may not exist. So I think the
Oh,
probabilities
interesting.
indicate God does not exist is a more plausible explanation. So what is your argument against that?
So your statement, just so I don't strawman it, so
It
your
is more
statement was,
probable God does not exist.
and you said that was because the things such as God are from our imagination, wasn't it? That was what you said
Anything.
before.
Any hypothesis presented by humans is more probably imaginary than real. And so until evidence is provided, it's more likely that it is an imaginary concept, just like unicorns, fairies, Santa Claus,
Yeah, but you
UFOs.
can't prove that it's not real.
I don't need to prove it's not real. I just need to have, if there's no
Well, I
reason
mean,
to
a
believe
lot
it
of
is, wait. So if there's no reason to believe it is real and there's reason to believe it's not real, that is evidence to the conclusion it's not real. So all I need is
I
some
agree.
evidence against the hypothesis it's real. Like, for example, humans make stuff up. If humans mostly make stuff up and God is a concept like any other concept, then it's most likely a made up concept.
You got my
Sure.
support on this, TJump. Yeah.
And apostolic, I mean, the way I understand it is like, agnostic speaks to knowledge and atheism speaks to belief. So in that respect, I can know something doesn't exist and I cannot know that something, doesn't exist. So it really depends upon the God that you're talking about, because
Mhm.
that certain specific logical entailments that by virtue of those entailments, if they present logical contradictions, then we could say that we can know that those things do not exist. So we
Well, I
can
wanna
be
s-
a Gnostic atheist when it comes to a specific God, depending upon which one we're talking about. But if we have that delineation, right, that
Well, I think his argument isn't about a specific God. He's saying that just talking about general theism versus general atheism, that it's more rational to say that you are agnostic than to say that you are an atheist. I think I want to take the steel man in his argument, take the strongest possible form and say, no, I think it's more likely that general theism or deism is less rational than to think atheism or naturalism is true. So that's given the strongest form of your argument, what would be your objection to my position that atheism and naturalism are more rational than to believe in theism or deism or any version of a god?
So I suppose this would come down to, I'm not really qualified to speak on these things. I don't know much theology or stuff, so I'll suspend judgment on that.
Can I give another reason why I think atheism is more probable than theism? At
Yeah,
least
go ahead.
all of the ones that we've seen so far, and that is because right now, all of the available evidence points to a naturalistic form of consciousness. And so we have no examples of natural laws of physics coming from creators. That tends to be a description. We're just describing what's going on. We're not actually an agent and we're prescribing. That, as far as we can tell, it's just this branch of life on Earth. It could be aliens somewhere else, but even then, I see no reason to believe why there would be a creator of a universe, it would actually go counter to everything we know about how laws of physics operate.
Sure. You've cleared stuff up for me. I think TJump cleared it up for me, so I agree.
Apostolic Agent, can I just add one thing into what you just said? You said I'm not really qualified. I disagree. The moment you believe in a God, you're 100% qualified to tell us why you believe in that particular God. You don't need to be a scholar. You don't need to be well versed in conversations like this. You know what you believe. You're the only one who knows what you believe. So there's only one person on the entire planet who is qualified to talk about what you believe, and that is you.
I think he was specifically saying he wasn't qualified to talk about those academic fields to argue against them. I don't think he was talking about his particular.
I'm just trying to help him out, because a lot of people will not come on the stage because they think they're not qualified enough to have this conversation. I would like to see just everyone being able to come on the stage and talk to us about the God they believe in, whether or not they think they're qualified in academic
That's fair.
propositions.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I agree with that. People should
Thank
be
you,
more
Peter.
confident. All I was saying is what TJump just said. I don't have any sort of academic like theology degree, so I won't be able to prove anything. But you guys have answered a lot of questions. I will just suspend judgment because I ultimately take my faith on faith. So, but can
Cool.
I ask one more question? It's a bit more of a
Well, just want to say, appreciate your questioning and bringing this up and challenging us on this. So go ahead, go ahead with your next question.
And your intellectual
Uh,
honesty when
sure.
you're admitting that you're not qualified, that is an admirable trait to have.
Yeah.
thank you.
It's like a breath. It's like a breath of fresh air in here. I swear.
Yes.
Also, I
It is.
want to say I think maybe a lot of people have different versions of agnosticism than the ones that Huxley put forward. So the original Huxleyan agnosticism was just that it's wrong to claim certainty of something that you can't support with evidence. And the claim of certainty is not required for belief or non-belief. So he's not saying you can't say whether you believe or not and give your reasons. He's just saying he's sick of people saying that he must prove that he is certain to say he doesn't believe in God. And he's also sick of people claiming that they are certain God exists without justification for that position either. But he's not saying it's worthless to engage in a discussion. And he himself didn't believe in Abrahamic God of any kind. I would just look at ethics of belief in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy if you want to learn more about Huxley's ethic of belief, and I would look at Clifford's as well because it's a much stronger position.
Sure, thank you. So my other question, this is sort of a joking question. So if you had to be religious, what religions would you guys be?
Jainism.
For me, most likely, I'd go for Satanism, and the reason, or Randism is the original name for it, because the 7 tenets of Satanism read like a human rights charter.
I don't think they actually believe in
I
God
am an
either.
ordained minister in Judaism, so
I actually agree with
answers the
TJump.
question.
I'd probably side with Jainism as well.
Yeah, I think he's asking like
Proudly
actual
competing.
religions, of the actual religions that aren't parodies. Like, what one would you choose?
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
yeah.
Jainism is pretty solid.
I'm
Jainism is
hoping that it would
extreme
be
Buddhism.
deistic,
Yeah, wear cheesecloth.
because if it's deistic, then they don't care about any of the interactions. They just created the universe and they're gone.
But yeah, thank you for that. I've got to go do an essay now, but to the
Thank you for
Well,
Thank
just
you.
quickly, what's your essay on the topic?
so I'm taking politics at uni, so it's on international relations stuff. So
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Nice.
interesting. Well, hey, I hope your essay works out really well for your marks. Take care.
yeah,
Thank you
Happy
for
New
joining
Year.
us.
man. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Apostolic Agent.
That was funny. Someone in my live chat was like, "You down with SCP?" Yeah, you know me.
This next one is going to be an interesting character. He's been spamming me since the first guest, so let's see what he has to say.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
I want to be a prophet right now. I feel like you may be a Muslim.
Oh,
This must,
oh,
this
he
must,
left.
This, yeah.
Oh, he's back in queue.
It might have had a technical
Telephone
challenge.
issue. Are you with us now? Welcome.
If your mic's not working, close out Discord and then relaunch it.
Also, a common thing that Discord likes to do is reset your input. And so if it'll make your output and your input the exact same thing, and that was not a good thing.
Oh, hey, Amy, if you give me $5, it'll be a
well,
profit.
I'm there.
We hear you now, I
He's
think.
here.
Yeah, finally. So I'm sure you guys already heard about the Kalam cosmological argument, or have you not?
I have.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I reject it right from the very beginning. But
Oh, yeah, no
if you-
shit. You reject it. You're an atheist.
So what? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I don't reject it. I don't reject it because I'm an atheist. The problem with the main problem.
I want to let's let him go
Wait,
first.
Just a sec. Just a sec. Give me
I
a
mean,
sec.
if you already know about
No,
it,
hang on. I'm just trying to tell you, and then I'm going to give you a chance. So the main problem with the Kalam is that it doesn't have a direct link to any kind of deity. But keeping that in mind, go ahead and present it. We'll be interested to hear your perspective on it.
Right. So, I'm sure you already know what the Kalam cosmological argument is, but if I need to present
There
it,
are multiple, so present yours.
Let him
yeah,
let him go.
Right,
Let
mine
him
is
go.
mine is fairly. I mean, mine is fairly simple. I mean,
Please present
the
it to our
Kalam argument is
audience.
as follows. So, first off, whatever begins to exist has a cause, right?
Sure.
Second, the universe began to exist as
Incorrect.
we know, and then third, therefore, the universe has a cause. So
Yeah,
then,
premise 1 and 2 are
He's not
incorrect.
done. He's not done yet. Let him.
no,
Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, sure. So now I presented it to the audience for the people who don't know. So now you can pretty much rebuttal it.
Premise 1 and 2 are incorrect. So
Right. So what's premise one? I'm just trying to know if you
everything that begins to exist has a cause. That's incorrect.
I don't think that's incorrect.
So, okay, yeah. There's diverging opinions, but fine. Well, why do you think it's incorrect? What's your
That there are particles that come into existence without an apparent cause.
Well, can you repeat that?
There are particles that come
particles-
into existence without any cause. They go
Sorry.
out of existence too without any apparent cause.
Yeah, it's virtual particles, and we've demonstrated it in
Yes.
the lab.
Yes.
Right.
So, and the second one, what you said is the universe began to exist. It's also wrong. It
Sorry, you think
changes
it didn't become to
states.
exist?
It changes states at the Big Bang.
It changes
It's a
states.
change of state. It's a change of state.
It didn't
Yes.
begin to
Can you
exist.
go more deep into that? I mean, that doesn't make
It always
sense.
existed. It's
Laws of
eternal.
entropy.
All right,
It's eternal.
alright,
It
so you
didn't
can
begin
say
to
that,
exist. It's eternal.
rather than saying the other way. But
Yeah. So premise 1 is incorrect. Premise 2 is incorrect. Therefore, the conclusion is incorrect.
no.
Yes.
Can you?
Yes.
All right. So let's begin with the premise 2. The universe began to exist. Do I need to present the Hilbert-Sortel paradox, or do you have or do you have a counter argument to that? I need to present it?
There's no logical
For
contradiction.
those who might not know what it is, what is the
Alright,
Hilbert paradox?
All right, sure. I'll present it. So imagine that there's a hotel with an infinite number of rooms. Now imagine that all the rooms are full. Every room is occupied by exactly one person. What if someone were to come along and ask if there are any vacancies? Vacancies. I don't know how to say that.
Vacancies, yes, vacancies.
Vacancies. Yeah, no problem. We understand. Go ahead.
Yeah,
You have
so
everybody move over to the room to the right.
what does that mean?
He's
Yeah.
talking about Hilbert's Hotel. That didn't literally mean we
Oh,
should move.
I thought you meant like Discord room.
Yeah.
That's what I thought too.
My fault. So now room 1 is vacant, right? With an infinite number of rooms, this would be possible. Say that there are 10 rooms. The guest from the room #9 goes into the room #10. But where does the guest from room #10 go? That guest is left without a room because there's no room #11. But when the number of rooms is infinite, there's no last room. So no one gets cheated by the room swap. What is worse?
How's this relevant to the expansion event at the Big Bang? Because I'm completely at a loss.
He's making an argument that infinite past regression is impossible. That's his argument.
Yeah, that there's some sort of problem with infinite regression.
think he dropped. But I also, because he dropped, I just want to point out that I always find whatever begins to exist has a cause is sloppy language that is putting what they want to believe in the beginning, because you can just Occam's razor that to ever exist has a cause. The problem with that is that means God has a cause.
God didn't
Yes.
begin to exist, so that wouldn't. I don't
No,
think.
Oh,
he,
no,
didn't, he didn't begin
exactly.
to. It didn't begin to exist, which means that you have infinite regress. So he already brought up both points to
But that is-
rule out his God.
But that's my point, is that the whatever begins to exist has a cause. The begins to exist is them ushering in. It could be...
But they will say that God has always existed, which means that God has an infinite regress, which means that infinite regress is possible. So
But if
it
God has
all comes
always
down to special
existed,
pleading.
whatever exists has a cause.
No. What begins to exist has a cause.
Oh, I know.
That is
I'm
that-
trying to say that is sloppy language that puts the conclusion in that they are trying to usher.
I don't think
it's,
so.
It's pleading because God didn't begin to exist.
Yeah, so like,
In fact, we know
it-
every single God that is
That
currently
is
being
what I'm trying to
proposed
say. I don't know why you said no.
started. I had a point of starting to exist.
So there's nothing wrong with the
Every single
argument.
one.
It says that if a thing begins to exist, which means it's not eternal. If it's not eternal, then it has a cause. That's the argument. So if something is eternal, then it
Yes.
doesn't have a cause. And when they say God is eternal, therefore it's not begging the question. So you can say anything you want is eternal. Hypothesis.
Are you
Nothing
trying
wrong with
to
that.
prove that an eternal being exists?
Oh no,
Mm,
it just
no.
specifies a criteria clearly, and I agree with TJump on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kalam is limited to a certain subset of things that exist.
Yeah, they only quite recently snuck in the fact that everything that begins to exist has a cause, because the stupid atheist figured out that everything that exists has a cause. God has a cause, so they had to come up with slightly premise one,
That is my point. I'm so confused. That is trying to say.
which is why I asked which Kalam cosmological argument do you adhere to, because there are a few different ones, a few variations.
So
on
if
the
I'm
original.
tracking with this, he essentially has to demonstrate how the universe in and of itself cannot be an infinite.
I would like something. Show me something that begins to exist, and then you can use that in a premise.
What? I don't understand.
Something
Like particles begin to exist. I don't understand the question.
I like
guess
the
if you
question, because if you boil it down to what
Alright,
Amy means is that
So wait, so real quick.
literally everything we can trace back.
I would also be okay with that, but that would be naturalistic.
Our guest is here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The being, that has caused the universe needs to have at least these seven criterias. So first, it should transcend time. It should transcend space and time, since it caused space and time. It is changeless because it is timeless. It is not material because it is spaceless. It is uncaused, since nothing could have been for it. It is incredibly powerful, since it caused the entire universe, and it is personal, since an explanation is either scientific or personal, but the cause of the universe is beyond science. The only sorts
Okay.
of entities that transcend space and time are abstract objects, numbers and
Can I
minds.
reply?
But
Can I
abstract
can I
objects
reply
are
to that
causally
real
inert,
quick?
and personal, timeless,
Sorry,
and
Hold on. Can
changeless
I
set
reply
of
to that
sufficient
real quick
conditions
before you
for
continue
creation.
and we waste a lot of time? Hold
Yeah,
on.
there was like 10 things that was wrong with that.
You said it doesn't exist for any time and it doesn't exist in any space. That is by definition something that doesn't exist.
No. I said it is changeless because it is timeless, and it is not material
I
because
didn't
it
say
is
I
spaceless.
didn't say anything about
Yeah,
changeless. I
it
said
caused.
if
It caused it.
if
It
it
caused it.
doesn't
It's not.
if it
It's not
doesn't
in it.
hold,
It's not
let
in
me
it. It's inside of it.
listen to what I say so you don't have to strawman me. If it doesn't exist for any period of time and it doesn't exist in any place, it doesn't exist. Period.
No. Not what I said. I said
Yeah.
it doesn't need it. It's not a part of it.
No,
it's
it doesn't
outside of
exist.
it, bro. It's
Okay,
outside of
yeah.
the
Things-
matrix, just like Andrew Tate. Bro, come on.
It's just like Andrew
What?
Tate. Oh my god.
Sao,
Exactly.
when you say something is timeless, it
Go
means
into jail.
it does not interact with time, so therefore it doesn't exist in time anywhere.
Yeah, it is
Um,
timeless. It doesn't need it, and it is
So
changeable.
it's a self-defeating argument is what you've put forward.
No.
I think
It's
that's
outside of it. That's
doesn't,
what I
if
mean.
it
It's
doesn't
outside
need
of it.
time,
But
hold on,
anything that is
hold on.
outside
If
of
it
the
doesn't,
universe
hold on,
doesn't-
hold on, time out. If it doesn't need time, does it interact with humans?
If it doesn't need time, does it interact with humans?
No,
Yeah,
no.
it doesn't.
I-
It doesn't interact with humans.
It
It
does
interacts through
interact with-
angels. It interacts
Oh,
through
Does it interact?
messages.
Hold on, I only need a yes or no. Does it interact with humans?
Itself?
This is a terrible reply that has nothing to do with the
Yeah.
argument. Literally
Hold
a
on,
terrible reply.
I'm just curious.
I know,
Let me
bro.
go here. Let me go here for a second. Does
mean-
your God interact with humans?
I
Yes
mean,
or no?
yeah, he interacts to them through
Okay.
multiple varieties of, it can interact with them. Yes,
Okay.
it is a possibility.
Okay. Did he interact with Muhammad?
Oh my god.
He's dead. I can't interact with my prophet.
That's not my question. Did he interact with Muhammad?
Like, personally. He didn't show his face or anything. I mean, he
Yes
he
or
didn't.
no question. Did he
Yeah, sure,
interact
yeah,
with
sure.
Muhammad or not?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
At what time?
Oh my
At
god.
what time, bro? What?
Give a
Do you
date.
think I need to pull up a calendar, bro? It's like, I don't know, somewhere.
He's-
in the-
was it-
in the
You said
600s?
he didn't need time. So when did he interact with Muhammad?
Yeah, he interacted through my prophet and like what? He interacted through him multiple
When?
times. Like, okay, so from 564 to, I don't know. Yeah, multiple.
Can we go back to the argument now? Because this is
Ah,
literally irrelevant.
Yeah, this is literally irrelevant, man. Come on. I mean, come on. He's pro-Ukraine. No shit, he's irrelevant. That's how
Sao,
pro-Ukrainians do.
I'm wondering if perhaps by timeless you mean omnichronological and spaceless you mean omnipresent.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the words timeless and spaceless make your argument self-contradictory, but
It doesn't. It doesn't.
omnichronological-
Oh.
No, omnichronological and omni.
There's like three
would be
conflicting
better.
arguments. Can you guys just choose something, man? Like, Randolph just starts speaking, and TJump is like, no, and then Peter starts speaking, and Taco's like, no. So yeah, like, pick one thing. You atheists, come on. Can't
You're
even
gonna
get up and
Okay.
choose one
You
thing.
gave us
Give-
7 points, and we're
I'll pick
responding
one
to-
thing. Give me your best evidence that your God exists.
That's, I've already given it.
Yeah.
You were
So okay,
literally
can,
giving it
can,
in
can
2
I go
seconds
now?
ago.
Because
What-
you guys are just not
Hold on,
addressing the
what
argument at all.
did you give?
Oh my god. He gave
What
the
evidence did
cosmological
you
argument. He
provide
gave
that
the
your God
cosmological
exists?
argument. That's
Man,
evidence.
atheists have no way to speak
Oh.
normally. You gotta calm down.
If-
Calm your
Hold
titties
on.
down. Come on.
If your
Come on, guys.
cosmological argument doesn't get us to a specific God, then how
Who
can
cares?
it be
That
evidence
doesn't
for
matter,
your
Peter.
God?
That literally doesn't matter.
Literally doesn't matter, man.
Okay, so let me
Really
actually
does.
address the argument that he made instead of going off on irrelevant tangents. Things can exist outside of space and time. Material things can exist outside of space and time. Change can exist outside of
But
space
he's
and
not
time.
material. Yeah, but he's not material.
I don't care. The point is that the thing that explains the origin of the universe doesn't need to be God, because material things can do that. So material things can explain the origin of the universe
Yeah.
without a God. Secondly, there's no
Okay,
intention.
okay,
Wait.
Whoa,
So
whoa, whoa.
wait. No, stop. You presented like 10 things. I got to debunk all the gibberish
an
you said.
example.
So the
Give me an
first,
example.
wait, stop. So the second thing you said that was complete gibberish was the fact that abstract things don't cause anything, and so mind's intentionality does. There's no evidence that mind's or
I understand
intentionality can't exist at all outside of space and time. There's no evidence of intentionality outside of space and time.
There's nothing. There's
Stop
nothing. that can
talking.
be
Stop
proven
talking. Stop
scientifically out of
talking.
space
Stop
and time, man.
talking, kid. Kid, stop talking. Let me finish.
Oh,
So-
come on, my son.
Stop. I'm going to mute you. You made an argument that there needs to be something, an intentional mind state or an intentional decision to cause something. That is false. Those can't exist outside of space time. There's no evidence of them existing outside of space and time. Quantum fields can exist outside of space and time. There's a lot of evidence that it does. And so the explanation of the origin of the universe is a quantum field, not a conscious decision. So your
Right, but
arguments
that
are
only
false.
works if you're wait. But that only works if you're using the Copenhagen.
No, it has nothing to do with the Copenhagen interpretation. It has
Yeah,
literally
that's-
nothing to do with
it,
it. No,
it
kid.
literally is only. It is only causeless on the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics.
No, kid, it's not. In the multiverse interpretation, the EPW interpretation, the many worlds interpretation.
EPW. All right. So all of these arguments that's not that's not even related to my premise. The premise one of this argument does not make the strong claim that every fact requires an explanation.
I didn't say
Rather,
that.
makes
That had
the
nothing to do
much
with what I
weaker
said.
claim,
Had nothing
only
to do with
things
what I
that
said.
begin to exist require a cause.
Right. The universe did not begin to exist.
Well then the particles and everything, like it just becomes absolutely irrelevant.
What? No, what you said makes
It
literally
becomes
zero sense here. So
absolutely irrelevant. It becomes
no,
absolutely
Stop,
irrelevant.
stop. So space
do
and
you-
time had a beginning. That's the part that we're agreeing on. Space and time had a beginning, and the question is what caused space and time? You think it has to be an intentional decision. That's wrong. What it is a quantum field. A quantum field caused space and time to
No.
exist. Quantum fields are spaceless. They're timeless. Change part is irrelevant. You don't need that at all. And there's no evidence intentional states can exist outside of space and time. There is evidence quantum fields can exist outside of space and time. So if we're asking what's the better explanation of what caused space and time, it's not a god, it's a quantum field.
No. My claim does not have anything to do with quantum fields.
What?
Can you prove that
Do you
quantum
even-
fields created? Can
Oh
you
my
prove
God.
that quantum fields have created it?
All of the evidence indicates that yes, there is no evidence of a god.
Okay, so
Lots of evidence
So
of
all of
quantum
the
fields.
evidence, all of the evidence is your fat ass mouth, nigga. Is that all the evidence?
What?
Wow.
Deuce this fool.
We're done. We're done.
Yeah, when you start bringing in racist slurs, you're out. That's it. Goodbye. Thank you for joining us. And I did just saying. TJump spent a considerable amount of time going through the arguments. Was there anything else you wanted to point out about his arguments, TJump?
No, that's good.
Well, I just want
It's
to.
it's a pity. It's a pity that he couldn't bring up the patience to listen to what TJump was saying, but just waiting for a moment to start talking again.
Or any of us, for that matter. And now he's hitting on women in live text chats. It's interesting.
Well, I just want to bounce off something that TJ said. Is that quantum fields is something that would initiate this local universe. I don't know why he thinks Allah fits the Kalam. That is an addition to the Kalam, as the atheists were saying. TJump actually has an answer, a naturalistic answer. I want to know why God, why Allah. It seems like a jump.
A TJump? Sorry. Who do we have next?
Yeah, we've got Arasil. I'm inviting them up right now. Looks like they're Christian.
Arasil, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
How's it going, guys? I was just gonna, I have a proposition, kind of, but I first want to ask, like, some independent questions. First of all, do we kind of agree that proving, well, I know TJump said he believes kind of absolutely that there is no God, but will we agree that can't necessarily prove or disprove, or no, you can't necessarily prove God exists or prove that God doesn't exist, but you can present evidences for why you would come to that conclusion, correct?
Some of them you can prove doesn't exist if they have a
Yeah,
contradiction.
that's why I changed my thing. I didn't say disprove God, but prove that God does not exist.
That's the same thing.
Yeah,
No,
well, yeah,
no,
disproving
if you're
or
presenting a certain God, then you can prove that that God does not exist. But if you're saying God, just
Oh,
generally,
any
the
possible
creator
God?
of the universe, whatever you want to call it.
So what argument do you have to present to us today?
Well, first, I wanted to ask if you guys are determinists, meaning, you know, everything is the result of physics, therefore your conclusions are also the result of physics and may not entirely line up with reality.
I lean
What?
heavily toward it, but I'm not 100% committed to it.
Wait, what does
Can you
that
explain
mean?
your last statement about reality?
The purpose of that is that if you are just the result, merely the result of you know, atoms, hitting atoms, you know, the end result, your opinions are determined by what came before you, then you're not necessarily coming to the truth by using logic. You are merely coming to a mathematical conclusion.
No. So yes, it's necessarily the case that I can come to the truth even if I am a result of deterministic forces.
Well, that's what I was saying too. You can still come to the a more correct opinion of reality, but it wouldn't be because of you necessarily. It would be because of, you know, an accidental or coincidental bunch of atoms hitting up against each other and coming to that conclusion.
That's also me. I think you're making a competition division fallacy. Like, it doesn't matter what I'm made of, if I'm made of a soul or if I'm made of matter. If either one has some kind of a process that allows me to think and make ideas, they're me. And so the reason I'm coming to those ideas is because of me. So it doesn't make a difference what you're made of, whether it's matters or soul stuff. Either way, you're going to be determined by the matters or the soul stuff.
So my argument is more that you cannot prove God exists, but using the scientific method, because God, like we were saying, is not in the realm of, you know, he is an immaterial, spaceless, timeless being. And I know that you had differences on how you want to define timeless. I'm saying that he is the creator
that makes a difference. Wait,
of the universe.
So I don't care. Like, I don't need to prove God exists. You need to, or I don't need to prove God does exist. You need to prove he does. And so even if it was true that the scientific method couldn't do anything about non-physical things, which it can, that's no problem proving those things, it wouldn't make a difference because you have to present evidence that God does exist, not ask me to disprove him.
I also have a real problem
Okay.
with any god that has all of these omnis, but then has no real way to interact with the real world. My joke is that if your god is so unpowerful that they can't even pick up a soda can, I would not call that maximally powerful.
Yeah,
So-
Ara, this is kind of why, like, over time, we've seen through the course of human history that God has gone from an entity that interacts with human beings, you know, speaks directly with us, with select individuals, passes on information and knowledge and this entity has evolved to the state of literally being defined as unknowable by humans, because just by virtue of its definition. Because we understand the universe a hell of a lot better than we did 2,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago or so. And so as we come to these understandings, we realize, wow, we're wrong about a lot of this stuff. And
I think he wants to continue with his argument if possible.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. That's not necessarily where I was going. I was also saying that even though he is those things, like proving God's existence through the scientific method, you can prove it through other sciences like history. You would agree that history is a valid form of science, right?
Sure, but wait, you can prove God through just empirical science. Like, I believe God exists. If God exists, he'll give me a gold brick. And I pray to him. I pray to him. Gold brick apiece. That would be evidence of God. So you can prove God.
But that's like asking.
Well, I don't care what it. No. Then the question. That doesn't matter.
Okay.
If you think God would do it. The question was: can the scientific method be used to prove God?
Theoretically, it's possible.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Theoretically, it's possible.
Yeah, it would not be. It would not present a logical contradiction for God to do this.
No, and that's.
I have a quick question. You did say at the start of this conversation that you were Christian?
Yes.
Okay. In the Bible, it says that if you ask anything you ask for, it shall be given to you. That is easily tested by that is easily tested by science.
Well, I don't think that's a part of his argument. He didn't make an argument that anything about that.
He's talking to the apostles in that. He's not talking
even
to
if he's
literally any
even
Christian.
if he's talking to the apostles, it's still something that we could test scientifically. If you would.
Well, we know historically, if you believe the okay, I don't want to get on the tangent.
Let's go back to your argument. Yeah.
I just really want to quickly rebut that, but then I'll continue. That would be saying that, okay, we can test that, but the result of that test is found in the Bible, where you see that Peter and other people say, I command you, like, I'm healing you in the name of Christ, and they get up and walk. That would be a test that the result is in Scripture. But the whole point is that we don't have that test now because he was talking to the apostles, not just every single Christian. What I was continuing to say, there were a few different things you're saying that I believe that God, you can't test him that way, that it's theoretically impossible. But it's like if you were in a relationship with a woman and you're telling the woman, hey, if you don't sleep with me, you don't love me. And you're trying to coerce that woman into doing something that she did not consent to, based on this thing, oh, if God, you do not give me a gold brick when I ask for it, then you do not love me. You do not actually want me to believe in you.
Well,
Can I
that's
tell you
irrelevant.
why that's not true?
That's irrelevant to the argument. But so your original claim was you can't test God scientifically. Yes, you can. How is this relevant to some
I know,
argument?
and that was semantical. I'm saying you wouldn't. It's theoretically possible, but that's not how God works.
All right. So what is your argument? How does this lead to arguments or something?
God can be proven subjectively, is my argument, because God is a personal being, and you can know a person through a relationship.
Right.
I have a relationship with God, and that relationship involves a
Right,
back and forth, me
So
searching out.
Just to clarify,
God,
how do you
God
tell the
showing
difference?
himself to me.
How do you tell the difference between an imaginary friend and a relationship in this way that you're using subjectivity to prove God?
I have evidence of, and this was kind of my point, is that it is subjective. So whether or not you believe it, it's all based on testimony. Do you trust me or do you not trust me?
Well, that doesn't matter.
I
So
wouldn't
evidence.
trust me if
Evidence is
I
that
was a
which can
complete-
differentiate imagination from reality. And so if you can't
Yes.
differentiate imagination from reality, you don't have evidence. And so the question is, do you have something in your subjective experience that can differentiate imagination from reality?
It also sounds like you have a
yeah,
story
result.
in your back pocket. So my question then to you is, what convinced you to be a Christian?
Well, it's not necessarily what convinced me to be a Christian. It's a continual process of me seeing that relationship, seeing God working in my life, seeing answered prayers, seeing things like I was saying, I have a relationship with God, and I have testimonies of God specifically working in my life and working through me to present himself to others through miracles. I've literally prayed for rain to stop, and it stopped. You wouldn't believe that, and I don't ask you to believe that, because that's some stranger on the internet.
I believe that.
So that's kind of my point.
It's a very hold on. That's a very good thing. So how did you determine that God stopped the rain?
Well, I was talking to my friend who didn't believe God. I was talking about the story of Moses, and I said, if you saw someone who said, I'm doing this in the name of... I'm doing this in the name of God.
You prayed?
Okay.
Hold on. Let's make this shorter. You prayed for God to stop the rain, and the rain stopped.
Yes.
How did you determine that God stopped the rain? I don't need the entire context.
I need to explain what happened. I'm trying to do that to my best of my ability. So that's the context. We were in the car. It's hurricane torrential downpour, and I heard a voice after me telling the story about Moses and saying, if you saw something like that, you would believe, right? And I asked him that, and he said, of course. And we're in this car. I'm in the back seat, and I hear a small, still voice in the back of my head saying, if you pray for the rain to stop, I will stop it. And then right after I heard that in my head, my friend in the front seat turns around and he says, if you stopped the rain, then I would believe in God. So I prayed for that, and then the rain stopped.
I know the context. I'm still down to my question. How did you determine then that voice was God? And how did you determine that it was God who actually stopped the rain?
Because it was torrential downpour and then it stopped. And
No. I believe that happened.
It would be an odd coincidence if nothing else.
Please listen to my question.
Mm-hmm.
You heard a voice. You heard a voice. How did you determine that voice was God? That's for question one. And after you prayed for the rain to stop, how did you determine that it was God who stopped the rain? Answer just those two questions. Not more information about the situation itself.
Yep.
This is enough.
Okay. First off, like I was saying, it's about a relationship. I know God's voice when I hear it. Just like anyone, if you have a friend and you hear their voice.
Peter, let him Peter, let him finish talking, please.
Yeah, I'm just trying
go
to.
ahead.
I'm just trying to finish. Like, if I hear one of my friends' voices, if I hear TJump speak, or you hear someone else on this panel speak, without even seeing the little panel or the light of green, you know who's speaking,
agree.
usually, if you know them well enough.
I
I
agree.
knew that because of the circumstance and because of what God was asking me to do. And I know that from the result that it's God, because God made a promise to me in that voice that if I prayed, he would stop the rain, and the rain stopped.
That's a great.
That was a
That's a
promise,
great
and I know
example.
that God is truthful. So
That's a great example. So if you look at my icon, it says Peter the Tucker. How do you know that Peter the Tucker is my name and that you're hearing the voice of Peter the Tucker?
Wait, his answer there was
only-
perfectly legitimate. So if he has a
I-
belief God is, I'm agreeing with you here. So if you believe God is speaking to you, and you believe if God is speaking to you, something will happen, and it happens, that's evidence. So you're perfectly fine. That part is epistemically rational for you to believe it was God who spoke to you. Fine.
And then I was also going to respond to Peter. Actually,
Well,
I know.
after
I
that,
only
Laura,
know it.
can I just say after you can? No, I'm gonna let you answer. Just after you answer, just let me ask you a question.
Sure thing. I was also going to say I only know what you have revealed to me, just like how I only know about God what He has revealed to me. I only know that you're revealing that you're Peter de Tucker because your name says Peter Tucker. You said I am Peter de Tucker. My little icon lights up when I'm speaking. That's how I know, unless you're lying, which that would throw off things, but it would still be you revealed to me exactly who you are.
Okay, but so let's go back to the very first time you heard this voice. This voice said, "I am God." How did you determine back then that the voice was God and not something you were
I think
hallucinating?
I could have been hallucinating. That's always a possibility, but I don't think I was because of the circumstance, because of the conclusion to the events.
Okay. And can I ask you, RSCL? So let's pretend I was alone with you with the thing. You said you had an answered prayer. You asked for rain, and it rained.
No, I asked. I prayed.
Rain.
I heard God say, telling me, if you do X, I will do Y. And I did X, and Y happened. It was you wouldn't understand it unless you're there. That's why I was saying this argument is subjective.
No, it's not. That's a perfectly good argument.
being.
That's objective evidence. That's not subjective. It's perfectly good evidence.
On board. So let's
And
just pretend that happened, and I see this with you. I'm there with you, and I see it happen. My question to you is, shouldn't we try to do this again?
That's not how God works, though. That was a circumstance in which God told me what I could do, and I'm the one who reacted to God, not the other way around.
The only real
God initiated it.
The only real issue I see with this is that, then I have to ask, Aura, by what methodology did you eliminate your confirmation bias?
I don't think you can, but I would say that if that didn't happen, I would look like an absolute and complete fool, right?
Well, not necessarily. TJump is correct. What you're giving would be solid evidence. Especially, it'd be even better evidence if we could replicate it and could actually, create a model, a predictive model that works for us. Like, like this is what we have to do at these specific times to pray and make the rain stop or make the rain start, depending whatever. But the problem is that the issues that are here is that even though I agree with TJump that you made a perfectly good argument, it's perfectly good evidence for you. The problem is that one,
it can't be replicated.
Well, that's one thing, but the biggest issues go towards your personal experience. One, there's no methodology by which you can differentiate, between your internal monologue and what you think the voice of God sounds like. So we have different voices in our heads for different people. Agreed. But sometimes those are our internal monologues that we are putting the voice of the person that we're imagining onto that. So you may have an idea in your head of what God looks like, what God sounds like, but you can't differentiate between what that God is saying to you and your own internal monologue, what you think God would be saying to you.
I don't think that matters.
I agree 100%.
Actually, so I'm just saying that's one thing to take into consideration. We can say that it doesn't matter, but that's an important variable to take into account. And
two, it didn't matter. agree
Two,
100%.
if you already pre-held the belief that God exists, then you believe that prayers work, despite the fact that they're a violation of free will. But you believe that God exists, which means that the interpretation of a potentially a coincidental event would be interpreted as God existing and God granting a prayer, because you already hold the belief. So you haven't eliminated your confirmation bias. A strong, strict methodology would eliminate that.
So
Well,
first
you
thing,
could
first thing,
say-
I want to jump in here for a little bit. First thing, it doesn't
go ahead.
matter how you determine if it's God or not. If you have a hypothesis, you can make the hypothesis based off literally anything. If you like spin a magic 8-ball, that's fine. So if his hypothesis was God spoke to me, that's perfectly fine. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's justified or not. He can say God spoke to me. If God spoke to me, I would expect this to happen. This happened. Therefore, I'm rational to believe God spoke to me. So the justification of why he believed it was God was the prediction and its efficacy. So he's perfectly rational to conclude it was God who spoke to him. He doesn't need any further justification other than the fact his prediction occurred. That's it. So he's perfectly fine. That answers both JL's and what's his name, Peter's questions. So that part is fine. The problem is the next thing you guys both asked, which was how do you determine that wasn't just coincidence? You can't replicate it. And am I justified in believing if Santa Claus is real, I will wake up in the morning and presents will be under the tree. I wake up in the morning, presents are under the tree. Therefore, Santa is real. How is that any different?
If I can, right before I answer your question, just address one thing, is that I would also agree that it's perfectly reasonable to also say, hey, this could just be my imagination. What is stopping this from actually being, like, could this just be my imagination? And the Bible says to test the spirits to see whether they are from God or not. But the more you spend time with God, the more you know his voice. That's the kind of one of the indicators. And then the other thing too is that my original thing was positing that God is a personal being and that he can prove himself subjectively, and that objective evidence is only there for whoever was present with me at the time. However, my repeatability process is that I've had that happen multiple times. The only other thing is eliminating bias, but it's like your bias towards evolution, right?
No.
You have a bias based, but it's based on evidence, right? It's based on
it's a conclusion. It's a conclusion derived from the evidence.
Well, no.
Yeah,
so again, the question here is, can you differentiate imagination from reality? Personal experience cannot do that. So if all you have is personal experience, you don't have evidence, you have an anecdotal fallacy. So you do not have evidence. So even if you think you've experienced this multiple times, unless you can demonstrate it works independently of your personal subjective interpretation, all you have is an anecdote, because lots of people have personal subjective interpretations of gods or beings answering their prayers. But when they're tested independent of your subjective experience, they fail 100% of the time. So we know that human beings have this proclivity to make stuff up and to think that their prayers are being answered even when they're not. So like there's this really common example where people will look at the clock and see it's 333 and they say, oh my God, every time I look at the clock, it's more often it's 333 than anything. But then when we actually check, they look at the clock all the time and they just don't remember it because of their brain remembers the positives and forgets the negatives. And so if you hypothetically made tons and tons and tons of prayers and most of them didn't get answered and you just forgot, but you remembered the ones that did get answered, that would be selection bias, and it would prove that no, there isn't actually evidence there. It was just you selectively remembering certain things. And so for you to actually demonstrate this works, you need to be able to figure out objectively, not just your subjective experience, does this actually work, to be able to filter out, is this just a part of your imagination? The fact that it's happened a lot of times to you is no different than the people seeing that it says 333 on the clock a lot for them. Of course it does. That's because your brain remembers the hits and forgets the misses. And that's one of the fallacies of human cognition, which is why you are not allowed to use your personal experience as evidence.
Well, I would agree, but I'd also say that if you were all in my head 24/7, you would have seen the things that I've seen, and you would also be able to remember. Or if you were thinking critically, imagine like a peanut gallery. I truly believe that if you were in my head and you were able to see through my eyes and you were with me 24/7, you would see the evidence that I've been presented with, and you would come to the realization that God is real
Yeah,
based on that
but
evidence.
given that we
Yes.
can't do that, given that we
And
can't
God-
do that, when we critically approach what you're saying, we can't, because it's your personal experience and we can't replicate that, and we can't live
You
in your
can
head
actually.
or be in your head, then we cannot eliminate the possibility of misinterpreting coincidental events. So we can't.
I think the problem is that I'm saying that you can repeat it, but you have to repeat it subjectively. The Bible says specifically that if you seek me, I will reveal myself to you. If you seek me with an earnest heart, seeking to find me. If you truly believe that if I exist, that's also the thing. You don't have to say God exists. You can say, God, if you exist. And I know you guys are going to say I prayed and this and that, but I think the real issue is acknowledging whether those prayers were in earnesty,
but
or
there's
whether
the
they were.
problem. But there's the problem, Aura. You're suggesting that belief must come before evidence.
No. The test is if, then why. And it says if God exists, and if he is truthful, and if he says that I will reveal myself to those who seek me with earnesty, then he will reveal himself. You don't have to believe in God. You just have to believe that if he exists and this is his character, then why?
But that's belief. But that is belief before evidence. That's believing it exists.
That's a test. That's a test.
But no. But that is confirmation bias.
No, it's not.
Literally, yes, it is.
No,
Believing
it's not.
the thing exists so that you can find the evidence that to support that existence. That's
just hypothesis.
No,
that's wait. So that's just a hypothesis. If you believe magical fairies are in my butt, you will be able to see the magical fairies. So you look and you don't see them. So you could, any hypothesis you have to accept. If it's true, then you'd see the consequences of it, and then you look for the consequences of it. That's all he's saying.
Yes, but Aura is saying that we have to believe that it exists to find it. Therefore, therefore it will then reveal itself.
No, he's just saying the same thing I just said. Where if you accept a hypothesis, you expect to see the conclusion. Therefore, you look for the conclusion. He's not saying you have to actually believe God exists. He's saying I can do it right now. If God exists, he'll give me a gold brick. No gold brick.
Okay, then great. Then if I don't believe it exists, then if I go searching for it, and it existing is not a conclusion because I don't believe that it exists, but I'm looking for evidence that it does, then why would I interpret any of the evidence as evidence that it exists?
Well, if it were a prediction,
you've already
that'd be fine.
come to the conclusion that God does not exist, and you don't even accept the premises of the hypothesis that if he exists, you can say, I don't believe in God, but if he exists, then why?
Can I ask?
Wait. So just to go ahead. Yes, that if that happened, that's the Pine Creek test. You were right. That would be phenomenal evidence. But guess what? Every single atheist, or the vast majority of them, who have converted from Christianity did exactly that. They genuinely sought, and they genuinely tried to find God, communing with God, and failed because he doesn't exist. So the fact that you think that if he would existed, he would present to any genuine, not what it's called, the non-resistant non-belief. That would be evidence of God if he talked to any non-resistant non-believer, but he doesn't. And so that's why most atheists are atheists, is because they were non-resistant non-believers or non-resistant believers, and he didn't speak to them. And so the fact that that doesn't happen is great evidence that it's false. But in the case, to go back to miracle claims, again, your personal experience is not in any way evidence, because even if I existed in your head, and even if I saw everything you did see, that would still not be evidence, because you need a way to differentiate, is this a figment of your imagination or not? And me seeing your personal experience does not tell me whether or not this is a figment of your imagination. You need a way to filter that out, and your method has not provided that.
TJump, I had one more question.
Awesome. You're good. I'll ask you after. All right, ask it with TJump.
Yeah. No, I will answer whatever you ask afterwards. But my last thing after that was like I respect your opinions and beliefs too, but that's also coming down to the subjective. Is that were they truly seeking God? I can't know that, or were sins or this or that preventing them from earnestly seeking God, or like the Bible says, sins draw people away from God. This or that, I don't know that. But also I would say would, if you lived during the time of Jesus and assuming that what's written in the Bible is true, you see miracles done by Jesus and his followers, and they
Yeah.
say, this is to affirm the testimony which we give that God raised Jesus from the dead, and that he is God, and he offers you a sacrifice for sins, this and that, and you saw those things.
Yeah, if Jesus
would
claimed
that
he
be
rose
enough?
from the dead in 3 days, and I saw him rise from the dead in 3 days after being crucified, I would likely believe yes.
Okay, and then lastly though, but again, that is subjective, because when you go to someone who didn't see it, they're taking testimony for what it is. They either believe that you're a truthful person and that you're being honest about what you've seen, or they don't, or either or they just might not know. But for 100% fact that these things were done because of God. You've seen the miracles, you've seen what they've done, and then you go, okay, I might not be able to convince them, but I am 100% convinced because of what I have seen. And these people, through maybe no fault of their own, have not seen those things. So maybe they are justified in not believing those things. But I also believe that God presents evidence to those who would believe it.
Can
Okay,
I
but that-
also
Go ahead, Amy.
ask? Well, I just want to know if, to bounce off what TJump said, actually, one of the great things about science is that our intuitions, yes, they're often right because of evolution, it's honed us, but sometimes they're often wrong. That's why it could be a rustle in just the wind blowing the bush, or it could be a tiger hiding behind it. The science is how we, or one of the best methods, not the only, but one of the best methods from delineating fact from fiction. But then I would also like to know if these signs stopped, if it just began, because to me, when I look out to the world, I am an optimist, but I see 50-50. Bad things happen, good things happen. It seems very random. I think when we try and put good things out into the universe, it starts to push it in a specific direction, but that's us as agents doing that. I don't think it's a God. And so my question is, if you were to stop seeing these signs, is that your test for whether a God is true? Would you become an atheist?
And I just want to quickly interject one question from an audience member. It's very similar to what Amy's asking. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Canadian Oleman asked about 18 minutes ago, I need some rain here. Please get RSEL to make it rain here where I live within the next 15 minutes, and I will convert right now. I will believe in God, and I will go to church regularly.
Interesting. Well, I'll pray for you, but, I don't know. The reason I knew that it would stop was because I believed that God initiated the occurrence. Whereas if I pray something that, God did not initiate, I have no guarantee that that will happen.
And just in case it's helpful to you, he's in Eastern Canada.
Okay, thank you.
What if God
yeah, I'll answer Amy. Yeah.
What if God stopped initiating things?
It's kind of like a hypothetical, like, what if God stopped doing what God does? I don't know what really would entail, because God is the initiator of all things, and the sign thing, I would rather go with that, because like God stopping initiating things, I don't really know what that means. But the signs thing is like, oh, God stops answering prayers, or God does this. I know from scripture, if God is truthful, that's not going to happen, because he makes promises about prayers. But the signs thing is that throughout scripture have evidence of, or I'm not saying believing just scripture, but what I've already seen plants me in the camp that even if God stopped presenting certain signs to me, I've seen very miraculous things, and then I've seen periods of nothing happening, really, like nothing miraculous. But through scripture, even in Israel, there were hundreds of years where God didn't do anything super miraculous. It's just the everyday life sometimes there's miracles that happen in your life, but they're bringing down the walls of Jericho by blowing trumpets. Those things they are rare occurrences. That testimony that I have was a rare occurrence. I'm not just like always hearing God's voice saying, like, oh, this and that. That was a rare occurrence, and it was God as the initiator, my personal testimony. So it's not whether or not I see signs does not make me believe. But if I never saw signs, if I never saw anything, that would be a different story.
I just have 2 more questions off that, and then you can ask whatever. I just want to know. Okay, so you said that there actually have been periods where, I hate to call it dry spells. I don't know where he was initiating.
That's fine. You can. I understand what you mean.
So what would then convince you of a God not existing? And then, well, I'll start with that. If that's not it, because is there anything?
What could convince me that God doesn't exist? It's very hard because it's saying it would have to be proven to me that everything that I have experienced was not true, or there was a completely scientific, which I'm not even saying that miracles have to be unscientific, because like with that rain thing, it's like, oh, someone in a weather station can look at the thing and they go, oh yeah, the cloud moved away, or this and that. But the real claim is that God moved away that cloud, or God dissipated that cloud. It's the God behind the science. But it would just have to be that my experiences would have to be 100% like proven false. Like I'd have to go, wow.
Well, you can't eliminate that your experiences are not completely explainable by naturalistic process, because anything that you encountered doesn't break the laws of reality.
My final question is just, in all of these, I'm not actually saying you when you tell me they happen because they are your personal experiences, but I also think that we have a big confirmation bias, like I think TJump was saying, and then what JL Warren was just saying is that can any of these not be ascribed to a rare event? Not that they didn't happen, but that they occur on a small amount in a big world. For example, it is a joke, but atheists mean it when they say it, is that God doesn't seem to heal amputees, because that seems to be something outside of our biological reality, that a rare event doesn't even occur, even though that's where I assume a quote-unquote true miracle would have happened. And so are any of these
I have the testimony
better than a rare event?
Yeah. In
none
my
of them
personal
seem to break reality. Like T-Jump's whole thing, like I pray to God for a
coming
gold
down
brick,
from heaven or this or that.
I pray to God for a gold brick, and a gold brick appears. That would be a really excellent example. That'd be a great test. And then if we could replicate it, that'd be even better. But like that would be great evidence. But I mean, to just make a gold brick appear would be a violation of reality. So
could I add something with it doesn't have to be like what seems like reality breaking, like walking through the sea on dry land, while you're walking through a tunnel of dry land while the waves are around you. It doesn't have to be anything like that. But I would say the verification would be the more complexity in the coincidence and having the same conclusion. Like I was saying, there wasn't just like I prayed for the rain to stop. There was I heard a voice that said the guarantee that if I prayed that the rain would stop. That was more complex, at least you would agree, of a coincidence or a circumstance than just me praying for the rain to stop and then it stopped. Correct?
Sure, and you are correct that the more complicated the example, the more it would be evidence. But let's say I can make it an extremely complicated, specific example. There's a particular optical illusion, has a Rubik's Cube on it, and there's 2 orange squares in the middle. and if you put the Rubik's Cube picture around it, they appeared to be completely different colors. And I can make a prediction that if God exists, then if I look at this Rubik's Cube, I will see two completely different colors, even though they're exactly the same. Now, I'm going to get this prediction right every time. Problem is that we know that that's a natural phenomenon that happens in the brain because human brains are not very well developed in certain instances. And so if your predictions are taking advantage of the fact of a problem in a human brain, they're not evidence, even if they're super specific. And so, what you need is a way to filter out, was the things that you experienced an example of one of those 10,000 fallacies, biases, illusions, delusions, misconceptions that humans have in their brain, or was it a genuine example? And this is why science is hard, because you have to filter out all of those subjective problems with the brain, and it's not easy to do that. And personal experience is especially terrible at that, which is why we don't accept personal experience as evidence. It's an anecdotal fallacy.
I would agree. So here's my thing: is like I agree with what you're saying, and I agree that humans are flawed creatures. But the other thing, and this might be a little rabbit holey, because I'm still thinking about what you're saying. But you would agree as well that there are atheists who are blind faith atheists. They just believe in atheism because someone told them that. And it's the same way with Christians. It's the same way with confirmation bias, and that kind of stuff. I have
to interrupt. I'm an atheist. I do not believe in atheism. That's one. Second, no one told me about it.
Well, he just said there are some. He just said there are some. He didn't say all.
There are atheists that believe for bad reasons, just as there are atheists that hold a position for bad reasons, just as there are Christians that hold a position for bad reasons.
But it doesn't disprove the position. It just shows that there are certain people who don't have evidenced or good reasons for what they believe, which I probably have some bad reasons for what I believe. As I'm not to be critical, but I'm sure you guys would also say, I'm looking for the best evidence. I might not have the best evidence for what I believe right now, but that doesn't mean that my position is false just because I don't have the best evidence.
Well, I just want to put in, yeah, you're right. It's not evidence that your position is false. What we want to know is what you're claiming evidence at all? That's the interesting question.
It's evidence, not for you though.
No. Is it evidence for you? Is it evidence of any kind for you? And until you have a way to filter out your personal biases and those tens of thousands, illusions, delusions, misconceptions, then it is not personally good evidence for you, and you should not believe it.
I think if people are truly seeking the truth, again, you only have my testimony for what I'm saying, but I truly seek the truth to know whether something was or was not from God, or if it was of God at all.
Well, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're seeking. Like,
I know,
even
exactly,
if I'm seeking truth, and I seek truth to know God exists, and I say if God exists, I'll see the optical illusion with the Rubik's Cube, I'm still seeing an illusion. What you need is a way to filter out, is this an illusion, delusion, misconception, fallacy, or bias? And so you need to filter out each of those 10,000 different biases that we have. You seeking truth doesn't do that. So you need to give us a method that you can use to filter those out, to show that your personal experience isn't one of those fallacies. Otherwise, it's not evidence for us, and it's not evidence for you, and you are irrational for believing it.
And if any one of us on this panel that told you that at one time in our lives we legitimately went out in all earnesty to seek this information out, and we came back with nothing, then you wouldn't be able to eliminate that. Then all you can say is like, well, no, then you didn't seek earnestly enough. That's where the problem is there.
Disagree. I personally would believe you, but I would also say there may have been. I don't want to get too tangenty. I would believe you though. I would believe that you were truly seeking, but I would believe that there were other factors at play that prevented you from seeing what was there.
So what would
say that you weren't earnestly seeking?
Well, just to clarify, what would falsify that position? What would it take for a person to genuinely seek and to know that it genuinely sought and God did not answer them? How would you tell if that happened? Or would you always be like, there was some extenuating factor that we just didn't know about to prevent him?
No, I would say that you could only know subjectively. That person would be able to know. And they may even, I would also say, just like how you could say that my my conclusion was an illusion. I could also say that that person who said that they were earnestly seeking might believe that they were, but it could have also been a self-delusion because they might not have been earnestly seeking.
You're saying
Or
you're subjective.
that's not what I said I would believe if someone told me that.
And I think there is a way to actually falsify it. I think part of what makes the claim weak is that it happened in the past. You could actually, the next time God makes an initiation, you should record it or do something that before the event happens and then say, hey, this thing's going to happen, this eclipse or this blah, 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 that maybe science or something has no prediction of, at least no lay people know why. And then when it happens, you will have an actual prediction.
I don't think that'll convince anyone, though.
Don't you think that'd be more convincing than saying?
Well, say if I recorded that experience that I had, what atheist who already believes that there is no God is going to take that video and say, yeah, that's definitely proof, or that's even evidence? Like, they would just say exactly the same thing as like that was just circumstantial. It's like that video I saw of like the atheist driving in his car. It's like, if God exists, then lightning will strike in 3, 2, 1, and then lightning strikes in the background, and then he's just like, it's like he's still an atheist. That really
yeah, but Aura, that would be real. That would be a really excellent experiment. You know, if you could demonstrate that you did that live, and it wasn't like you just recording over a lightning strike. And you know, if we say this happened live, you did this, God struck down the lightning. It was like, wow, okay, that is an amazing claim, and that's some amazing evidence that went along with it. Can I replicate it? Can I do this independently of your own personal experience? And so then I go and do it, and I record my findings, and I realize that if I do this at this, and say I go to the same spot you're at, and I do the exact same thing you did, and it happens again, that's even better. Even better is if I go to another place on the planet and I do the same thing and it happens again. That's even better.
I've done that same thing a ton of times and it's never happened.
Could I also
like at least 80 times in my life.
I've answered that part though, but it's not the fact of that's not the repeatability I'm talking about. I'm saying that these promises are repeatable in that if I hear the voice of God say, give me a promise, then I have the repeatability task or experiment that if I can do that multiple times, which that has happened for me. Not everything the same thing. It doesn't mean that if I continue, like now I just have that power to pray for the rain to stop. That's not the repeatability that I'm talking about. And it's not any ability that I have on my own. And it's not something, like I'm saying, these are the way that God works, at least according to what I believe, is he proves himself subjectively because he is a personal relationship being. He has a relationship with you guys, even if you don't believe him, and he's actively working in your lives. He works through people, he works through signs and miracles, and the only point of signs and miracles are so that you may believe that he has this power and he is who he says he is. That's the only reason that happened that night.
Can I tell you what that would prove? That would prove not that maybe when you ask God, like you're saying, you can't just ask God for anything, but you know what that would prove, as far as I can tell, that would falsify that God is initiating things. A voice tells you something, we don't know where that voice is coming from, but it tells you something and it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean it would falsify it if you'd be able to record it.
So there's a problem with saying that
you
God
wouldn't know
has-
what I'm saying, and you wouldn't be able to hear the voice in my head.
There's a problem with saying that God has a relationship with me, because a relationship to me has to be reciprocal, have some reciprocal elements to it. I have a relationship with you right now that we're on the stage together. It's a very minor relationship, a casual one that we don't know each other very well, but we're able to interact back and forth. And with all the people here, we have some kind of relationships, but I don't have any relationship with any goddesses or gods because there's no response coming from them to me. So if it's a one-way relationship, it's not a relationship. It's just somebody appealing to something else or someone else.
Wouldn't it be the other way around though? That you're not responding to him, but in what I believe, he's still providing for you. He's still working in your life to give you food and shelter and this and that every single day.
So regardless of whether that's Okay, so now
Because
grant
it provides his
I'll-
relationship
hang-
to you.
hang on. I'll grant that may be the case. That's still not a relationship if I'm not responding.
Well, I'd say that's a relationship in that he's your provider. That's his relationship with you.
That's
Well,
not a
He wants
relationship.
he wants a deeper relationship, which is
It's also
communal.
really
And
problematic.
he's going to have to show it, and he knows. Yeah, that's the
Randolph
thing.
is Randolph is correct on this. It's
Guys,
deeply
that would
deeply
be-
probably. Well,
that would
hang on,
be
Peter.
easily
Peter,
testable.
Peter, hang on a sec. It's also deeply problematic that you're asserting that this is what this God wants with human beings. Okay,
Mhm.
but it relies on the worst possible evidence. It relies on logical fallacies. It relies on things like faith in order to have these things when it doesn't need to. So it relies on
doesn't.
people suspending logic and reason and rationality to have this relationship when it doesn't need to do that. And it would be more intellectually honest for it to simply come forward and say, I exist. You can choose to have a relationship with me or not. And it's your free will to choose so. And you won't be punished if you don't, but you just won't get all the rewards if you do. So, but instead there's the metaphysical gun to our head of hell. So this is what's problematic about this. Why all the rigmarole, especially when any test or lesson or goal or desire in the face of an omniscient and omnipotent entity, they're all completely arbitrary.
Can I respond?
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to wait for you to finish. I think your problem seems less to be that you believe that it's illogical the way that I believe that God reveals himself, but I believe that you think I believe that it's irrational in the same way that I was talking about before with that the relationship thing is if you have a problem in the way that God reveals himself, but that's in any relationship. It's like if I force someone's hand and I say I want you to act this way, that's not a good relationship. That's more of an abusive relationship.
No, but it's not. I'm not asking it to force my hand. I'm saying that God's omniscience and omnipotence would entail that it knows the best way to reveal itself to human beings and allow them to still make a choice to follow it or not, because it has free will. So it knows infallibly the best way to reveal itself to human beings in a way that they would know without any kind of doubt that it exists, but they still have a choice without violating free will. And yet it does not do this. So it chooses to act out of accordance of what it knows would be best. That makes no sense. It's the logical entailment of this thing's attributes. You say that it wants this relationship with human beings, which entails that certain things would have to take place to facilitate that relationship. You say that it has possession of all true propositions in reality, which means it's omniscient. You say it's capable of any action that is not logically contradictory, meaning it's omnipotent. But the problem is the way it behaves is not in accordance with those attributes. It deliberately moves in ways that are complex, complicated, completely and totally subjective and open to interpretation, and in some cases doesn't even give evidence of itself at all to anyone. So the curiosity is, why set up this really weird system when all of it, if this thing actually exists, is completely arbitrary? Because ostensibly, being omniscient and omnipotent, it could blink everything out of reality and blink it all back into reality with no effort or even expenditure of resource. And we wouldn't even be aware that it did it. It wouldn't even be an evil act if it did that, because it itself is the arbiter of its own actions. So because it defines itself as all good, then if it blinked us all out of existence with no explanation, that would still be a good thing.
Okay, so
that's
what was
the problem with it. It's following the logical entailment of this thing. It doesn't act in the accordance thing that holds those attributes.
There's a point of nuance over here. The point of nuance, but I'll go ahead, Ariel. No, I want to cover that.
I wanna answer you. I also want to. I would talk all day, but I want to give people on the panel a turn after I'm finished, if that's all right. To talk. So
go ahead and answer. Yeah.
Yeah. What I would say about that specifically is that I don't believe there's a problem in saying God's only goal is that you have a relationship with him. He's also has the goal that well, not the goal. there's a fact of his nature is that he loves you, and in spite of what you might believe, or in spite of the complexity of how he acts out of love for you and for I, and he does what it takes to save souls that would willingly come to him. There's another problem too, is that I think you would acknowledge that if what I'm saying is true, that Judas is more responsible for rejecting Christ than anyone else, because he had the most knowledge, the most evidence, and he knew Christ personally and most intimately than anyone else. The Bible says that, you know, he's punished worse than anyone else. So there is a thing that if someone rejects Christ based on their knowledge of who he is, he doesn't want them to suffer as much as they are going to suffer in spite of his justice. So I don't know why, you know, you haven't received as much personal thing, or you haven't accepted as much personal experience or of this, of who God is, as I have. But there's also the possibility that God is doing things in such a way that people will not suffer as badly as they would have otherwise. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's also my belief personally.
I have a question
God
about
is
that.
going to be, if God is omnipotent and omniscient,
Peter, hang on a sec. Hang on.
if God is omniscient and omnipotent, he can end all suffering. So this argument to me doesn't work.
He's just, so he has to punish suffering.
There's a point of nuance that I would like to delve into a little bit here, because the way you were responding earlier before JL responded to you a moment ago, it was like, I feel that, you know, what you're noticing with us is we're not closed to this idea of a relationship with a deity, any deity. It can be a god or a goddess or a number of them. The thing is, I think people are missing this and misreading it as something else. It's not that we believe, it's that we are not close to it. We're welcome to it if it happens, and it hasn't happened. We're not seeing it. It's just not there. The reciprocal aspect of it isn't there. And what JL highlighted about this deity should already know what it would take, I agree with. I think that's right on the mark, because there's so many people claiming that this deity is that their deities are omniscient or have at least enough knowledge to be able to do this, and enough capability to do it as well.
Yeah, and essentially, Aura, all you did was appeal to God moves in mysterious ways, which technically isn't even biblical in that respect. But I'm trying to reconcile.
I said I could be wrong, by the way.
I'm trying to reconcile why this entity behaves in an illogical manner. That's my problem. And also, given it was pointed out in my live chat, someone pointed out in my live chat that this entity, by virtue of its attributes, doesn't require anything from us, because it is omnipotent and omniscient. Okay, so it doesn't need worship. It doesn't need loyalty. It doesn't need a relationship with anything. Okay, these things eliminate the necessity of any kind of test or lesson or tribute or whatever. Literally, God, in all of its infallible foreknowledge, could just create human beings in heaven with the knowledge and understanding that it wants us to have, with free will. It could do that.
Just like angels.
No, we wouldn't be angels. It could differentiate. Angels have a certain category, humans another category. And we would just be in heaven. We would just be in heaven with free will, knowing and understanding what it wants us to know and understand.
I have no idea how this relates to like the original topic. Like, you need evidence. You don't have any evidence.
Yeah, I would also add, if you just give me literally 1 second, I need to think for a sec. The way that God moves relationship-wise is that he reveals himself progressively. There's a progressive revelation that he gives. He gives a general revelation of who he is to every person on the earth. You know, whether or not you know who God is. And it's over the course of time that we either reject God or accept him and are revealed more things based on our openness to see more things.
Okay, then I just have, in response to that, I just have one last question, and either Peter can jump on his, or we can move on, or whatever. But
I have one.
If I go through the course of my life, and I earnestly seek all this evidence that's supposedly there. And through the course of my life, I look at every scrap of evidence I can get my hands on, which is, not everything, because I'm only human. But if I get to that point and then I die and I am an atheist and I've come to that conclusion logically, critically, and rationally without making any assumptions about anything or agreeing to something out of fear or desperation. And I come to this critically, logically, I use every tool that supposedly your God gave me to come to a rational and logical and justified position. And then I die and go to heaven and I get judged. Will I be sent to hell?
You're only sent to hell based on your desire to be separate from God. But there's a so here's a separate thing. This is more I believe that everyone who is not in Christ
You
will
say
go
yes
to
or
hell.
no?
What, Ara?
I'm trying to clarify my position.
No, if there's no clarification, the reality is this. If
People are judged on knowledge.
In your worldview,
Yeah.
if I come to the conclusion from an examination, a critical examination of the evidence, that no God exists, after examining everything I could get access to, diving into everything, and I critically and rationally and logically using all the powers that supposedly this God gave me to conclude that this thing does not exist, and I die an atheist. And then I go to heaven, because this thing does in fact exist. I go to heaven, and God knows that I logically and rationally and critically came to this thing with all honesty. Would I still go to hell?
So that's kind of presupposing that if you did it rationally, you would come to the conclusion that there is no God. Which, if God exists, then that would be wrong.
Okay, so let's put this straight. He came to this conclusion to the best of his knowledge that it's rational.
Yeah,
okay?
To the absolute best of my human capability, this is my conclusion.
I think the conclusion would be based on rejecting the truth. So that's my answer.
But if I cannot critically determine what is the truth, then I would reject what I cannot determine to be the truth, and I would accept what I can determine to be the truth, which would be rational. This is all included. Okay? There is no mitigating circumstance. The question is, if I die an honest atheist, will I still go to hell?
An honest atheist.
Meaning I came to the conclusion that theism honestly.
I'm just going to stand on scripture, but I'm going to my reasons are that of scripture, which is that no one goes to hell just for sin. They go to hell because they want to be separate from God, because they've rejected the truth and they've rejected his plea to be.
Why can you not just answer the
question?
No, you didn't.
He's trying. So
let's try that.
Yeah.
There's a better way to ask this.
Okay.
Is it logically possible?
The person who's trying their best to make a rational decision happens to have a mental illness caused by a physical problem in their brain, and they're being misled because of that. In your perspective, would this God be forgiving to them afterwards?
This I can actually answer better, because this is based on ability, which, like I said, God judges based on knowledge, which is the ability to know what is right and what is true. So if you know what is true and you reject it, God will judge you for that. It's kind of like God saying, I'm going to judge you, the person in the wheelchair. If you don't stand up, I'm sending you to hell. The person can't stand up, and then God sends them to hell. That's not how God works. God enables people to believe the truth. That's why I'm answering it. That's why I'm answering it. That's why I'm saying.
Aura, that is not what I'm going after is this.
Well, Randolph,
if I cannot determine that a thing is true, I will reject it as being true because I cannot determine it to be true. Just because you state that God is true does not mean that I can determine it for myself. If I go through the course of my life and I critically and rationally come to the conclusion that this thing does not exist because there is no evidence to support its existence, because it doesn't provide any explanatory power about the world, and I can't make any novel testable predictions with it, there is nothing to support it beyond pure emotional appeal. And I will not, being a rational and logical and critical human being, I will not say a thing is true just because it makes me feel better. If I come to this
Can I answer
conclusion,
Randolph's though?
no,
And I answered you,
the problem
yes.
is, the problem is you are dodging what I'm asking you.
No, I didn't. I
Hang on,
answered
hang on,
it.
both of
Yes,
you.
you
Stop for a
did.
sec. Just stop for a sec. RSL, the purpose of my question was to bring out this factor so that JL
Oh,
Warren
okay.
can continue with his line of reasoning here, because I think it helps to exemplify it. So please
Can I-
deal with him.
Yeah. So my
So, if
answer
I
is
come to
if
this
you
conclusion,
okay, wait,
rationally and logically and honestly,
please. If
okay,
you have
then would I still be sent to hell?
if you have the ability to know the truth and you reject it, like you said, I rejected the truth because I was
Why
not
are you
No,
changing?
no.
Why are you changing what JL says?
Yes,
I'm not-
Why
thank
did
you,
you
Peter.
do
All right,
that
no, all right.
with
All right,
Randolph's
I just
I
example?
just
told you.
repeated what
No,
he
no,
he said.
no, you
The only
did
thing
not.
I add was 100%. That's the
All
only
right,
thing
no,
I
you
added.
did not. You did not repeat what I said. I said I reject things that I cannot determine to be true, and I accept things
Yes.
that I can determine to be true. If I cannot determine critically, logically, rationally that God exists, then I will not accept that the claim that it exists.
If
if
you
I
do not have
die-
the ability,
If I
Okay.
die a critical, logical, and rational atheist, come to the conclusion honestly, expended all effort, and this is my conclusion, would I still go to hell?
so I'm trying to answer you, and I would appreciate. I'm trying to
because you're
I'm trying to
changing
answer.
the fact. You
Whoa,
keep
whoa,
changing the
Peter,
fact.
Peter. I'm
gonna
trying to
jump
be
in.
on it. Wait, I'm trying to be. I'm trying to answer this honestly as I can.
Hold
Okay,
on.
I'll just let you
keep
guys-
Peter,
changing the
stop
fact.
interrupting.
keep-
RSL is going to say yes or
I
no
just
now.
wanna-
He's about to address a question. Let RSL
I
say
wanna-
yes or no, and then we'll move on.
I said yes, you would go to hell, but you wait. Before you respond. If the preposition or proposition that you literally can't come to the determination of truth, then you would not go to hell if you were someone who literally does not have the mental capability of coming to the truth. That would be the determination. But if you truly can come to the truth and you reject it, then that's a different thing.
No, but if I can't
Why are
determine
you-
it,
Can I try?
but
Can I
hang on,
try?
Peter, hang on. But if I am unable, if I cannot, rationally come to a conclusion that a thing is true, then I will reject it because I cannot come to the conclusion that it is true.
Can I try?
That's inability versus choice.
Can
And
I-
I'm
can
saying
I try
if
to
it's a
explain the
choice, then
question?
you would go to hell. If it's inability, then you
Why
would.
are you?
Oh my God.
Why are you changing it?
He's
into
not.
a
He doesn't
choice
understand.
that
He doesn't
JL
understand what
has
you're
now
saying. Neither
10
of you are
times-
explaining it. Neither of
10
you are
times-
explaining it.
Hold on. Let me speak.
Oh my God.
JL has been specific every
No, he
single
hasn't.
time that it's not a choice. Every single time you answer him that it is his choice. Why are you?
I gave the
dishonest?
two options. If
let
it's
me
inability,
explain
then
it.
you would
Let
not go
me-
to hell.
let
Why are
me-
you
Whoa,
this
let me explain it.
dishonest
One at a
against
time.
JL?
You guys are
Let
terrible
Peter
at
go.
this. You
Why
guys are
don't
so bad.
answer
Let me
his
let
question.
Peter.
Why do
please
you
stop.
keep changing it?
I don't
to
think Peter can
JL
hear me.
being dishonest,
Peter,
knowing
All right, TJump, go ahead and go.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's
I
asking.
didn't-
I am an
I didn't say
atheist.
No.
JL was dishonest.
No,
I'd
no,
like
he's
to hear
no, no.
T-Jumps. I'd like to hear T-Jumps take on this. Go ahead.
He's asking, I have lived my life as honestly as I could. I have honestly sought the information from all perspectives, genuinely seeking a God. I was not biased against a God, but there was no evidence. So I used all of my intellectual honesty, all of my seeking evidence genuinely, found nothing. Am I still going to hell?
Okay, that's just inconsistent with Christianity.
Right. So you're saying it's impossible to genuinely seek the evidence and to not find God.
No.
Yes.
he's
Yeah,
saying
well,
you
it's-
are dishonest.
No, he's not.
No,
and
I'm
that
saying
you
I'm
deny
s-
it while
No,
having
no.
the ability to know the truth. That is what he's
Peter,
saying.
Peter,
He's been
hang on a
saying
sec.
that
Hang on a
10
sec. I
times.
want
I'm
to hear.
saying there's a difference. There's a difference between inability to know the truth and there's what you believe to be. And I'm not making this claim. I'm just saying
Forget all that.
with
Forget all that stuff. Just
Christianity
focus.
to be honestly seeking the truth and not find it.
Right. So you're saying it's impossible to honestly seek the truth and not find it. It's impossible to genuinely follow the evidence
I
and
don't
not
mean-
lead to God.
I don't mean truth. I just mean because people can be wrong about certain things while
Right,
seeking
that's
truth. But I'm saying specifically about Christ and God.
Right.
if you earnestly seek God,
if
you
people
earnestly
can be
seek
wrong,
Christ.
it doesn't automatically mean that they are dishonest and that they are denying it because they are dishonest. And that is the only
Well, I'm
reason
just saying
you
that's
keep
inconsistent
bringing
with
up
Christianity because
in
Jesus'
response.
promises is
Hold
that
on,
if you
I
seek him,
wasn't
he will
finished.
open
I
you.
wasn't-
You'll
I
find him.
wasn't finished. That is the only thing you keep bringing up to JL's question when he says, I have been honest and I have been doing everything to my full capabilities. And your response every single time is that he is being dishonest. When Randolph changed it
No.
up, hold on, time out, I'm not finished. When Randolph changed it up and said there's a mental deficiency, then for some reason, those people are honest. Why can't you be honest? Why can't you be honest and go
Well, if
off
JL
of the
has a mental
example that
if JL has a mental deficiency,
you
that will
stop
not allow him
talking
to
when
come to
people
that
are
conclusion.
telling? Why don't you stop talking when people are asking you a question? JL was specific. JL told you 10 times that he was honest and that he was sincere and that he used everything in his ability to seek God. Why are you the judge whether or not he is dishonest, and why do you keep calling him dishonest and won't answer the question?
Okay, can I answer?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't call him dishonest. I said that that
did.
proposition, that proposition is inconsistent.
Peter,
We can go
Peter,
back.
let him talk, man. Let him talk. Go
I'm
ahead,
just
Aura.
saying that proposition is inconsistent with Christianity, which I believe. So it's
Okay.
an inconsistent. That's all I'm saying. But I'm saying if there's a difference between, and just because you're honestly seeking and you're not a Christian yet, does not mean that because there's also the thing
Okay,
you
well,
cannot.
okay, well,
Can
Aura,
I
I'm not
actually
making.
ask
I'm
a
not.
quick question?
Hey, guys,
hang on,
can I
hang on a
please
second. I think I
finish?
found a better
Can
way
I
to ask
please
this.
finish?
Aura, I
Okay.
think I found a better way to ask this.
Yes.
Would your God hold me accountable for evidence that I did not find?
No, because you did not find evidence.
Okay. So if I
If there
honestly
was
search
evidence-
so if I honestly search the world and everything I can get my hands on to find evidence for this thing so that I can believe in it, and I never find it, and I die an honest and rational atheist, by virtue of not finding the scrap of evidence that would convince me or would prove it to me beyond a shadow of a doubt, just by virtue of being human, and I can't access the entire universe. Say there's evidence out there, but I never find it despite all of my honest endeavors. Will I be sent to hell because I didn't find it?
No, you won't be sent to hell because of not finding a specific. So you're not held accountable for evidence you did not receive, but you are held accountable for the evidence that you have received. That's it.
Okay, so as long as I die an honest atheist, I get to go to heaven.
If you die completely ignorant of everything or with a mental disability, then you would go to heaven because you have no knowledge. But God in Scripture, that's why I'm saying it's inconsistent with Christianity, because God in Scripture says that everyone is held accountable because everyone has received general revelation.
That's terrible evidence. Hang on, Peter. That is terrible evidence and no reason to believe it just because a book said it. So
well,
I'm
you're
going to
asking
reject
me
that.
based
I'm
on
going to reject that flat
Wait,
out.
you're
No,
asking me based on
What
Christianity.
he is saying, JL, what he is saying is that intellectual honesty is inconsistent with Christianity.
Yes, it's essentially
No,
what he is saying.
no.
Aura,
I'm saying it's inconsistent to come to it.
Aura, the answer to the question.
What you're saying.
Hang on a sec. Aura, the answer to the question that I'm asking you, given your worldview, is that yes, I would go to hell. The reason you don't want to say flat out that the answer is yes is because that makes your God out to be a moral monster.
I can say yes. No, I can say yes all day.
That is why you have to essentially define everything, define that finding the truth of God is an impossible thing.
Can I ask something about?
No, I never said that.
Something about hell. It's very specifically.
Amy, you can ask something about hell. I just want to say that's not at all what I was saying. I said specifically that I stand on Scripture that if you do not accept Jesus Christ, and that's why I'm saying Scripture also says that there's accountability for what you know. You're judged based on what you know. People were not held accountable until they know that there was a moral right and a moral wrong, and that they broke God's moral law. That's the only time when people are held accountable. So
circular reason.
you're not held accountable for
let's
evidence
go
you
to
didn't
the,
receive.
the
Amy,
heart of
Amy.
that. Is Satan being tortured in hell?
Satan is not in hell yet.
Satan is not in hell. Is Satan being tortured?
Not yet.
Satan is not being tortured.
Not
That's
currently.
interesting. Is Judas in hell?
Not yet.
Judas is not in hell. Is Judas being
Yet.
tortured?
Not yet.
Okay, is Satan going to be tortured in hell?
Well,
That's
actually,
interesting.
yes. Based on Revelation, hell is opened up at Judgment Day when everyone is judged according to their deeds.
So who's
Alright.
going to punish Satan?
Can we move on now? I think we should give more time to other speakers.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
we can.
Yeah.
It's-
I'm really sorry,
you for
guys,
coming
for
up.
taking up so much time, but thank you for talking. And I, for what it's worth, I'm praying for all of you guys, and I hope you have a great day.
Hey, Orasil, this was an interesting conversation, and I hope we can engage with you again in the future. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Narciel.
Bye,
And
guys.
I just want to say that wasn't the answers I was expecting. I would have assumed where I wanted to lead down is that Satan, clearly of all of us, knows the most, has the direct knowledge that God exists. And so I would compare Satan to almost anyone else. They should be the one being tortured. However, they are often in Christian mythology doing the torturing. Yeah.
I'm still
Beamsy
going with the
had
fact
something to
that
say.
intellectual honesty is inconsistent with Christianity. I think JL proved that 10 times in a row.
Yeah, that was
That's literally what he said.
that conversation was a bit of a struggle. I think there's a difference in the use of terminology is part of it. And this is something I've noticed seems to happen a fair bit, particularly with Christians I've engaged with over the years. Some of them have very different ideas on what certain terms mean. And I find the vast majority look at death very differently than the rest of the world that doesn't follow any kind of religion with an afterlife, because they remove the characteristic of finality from death. And that's just one example. I'd like to. It's good that we clarify terms when it's needed. And here, I think it probably would have been helpful if we focused a little bit more on that, because of the back and forth he was having with JL, and he's trying to qualify things, which was good, but it wasn't too helpful in answering the questions quite the way they needed to be answered.
because he knows
thing
what
that
he
annoyed
knows
me-
what the implications are of the answer.
Yes.
And so,
Yeah.
if he answers one way, it completely contradicts his entire worldview. He answers another way, it completely. I mean, either way, this is the whole point of it. Is that, like Peter said, yes, essentially, like intellectual honesty is incompatible with the Christian worldview. It's like
Yes.
it's beyond ridiculous. And like I said, and it's another example of this entity behaving in a manner that is inconsistent with its attributes. That because ostensibly, if God is omniscient, then it would know that these are problematic methods or problematic reasons for believing in things. That it would know that. So why would it rely on problematic crap? Why would it say, "Oh,
What annoys-
especially when it's completely
JL.
arbitrary"? It's just it's just causing strife for the sake of causing strife when it doesn't have to be that way, and it doesn't need to do it. I mean, it's literally just in service to its own ego. It's what it all comes down to. If this thing exists, all of this is just in service to its own ego.
It also comes
But
from
what annoys me most in all of this, JL, is that you gave him your story, that you were honest and that you had been looking, and suddenly he's a mind reader and he can tell you that you have been dishonest. That is the thing that annoys me, because it's not God judging you. This was him judging you based on absolutely nothing other than my book says so, therefore it's right. It is. Those are the things that I can't stand from Christians. My best friend is a Christian. He would never do that. He is honest to me and says, I have no clue. If you're going to hell, I wouldn't know why, and I would find it a wrong decision.
So to be fair, So to be fair, Peter, I guess you mean you can't stand that from some Christians.
X, what were
this
you about to say?
JL
wanted-
didn't
I
ask
wanted
him
to say
once.
something.
Hang on a
JL
sec, yeah,
asked him
hang on
the
a sec.
same,
X
the
was
same
gonna say something
question
about
10 times.
It's true.
Okay,
X,
I wanted,
what were you
I wanted to
saying?
bring this up because Amy pointed to some of this earlier. So when we were speaking to somebody earlier, Amy kind of hinted at the fact that the origin of some of these Christian beliefs is relevant to whether or not even a Christian should take them seriously amongst other Christians in their theology. And one of the things that we're talking about in detail, which is the theology of hell, is non-existent prior to contact with Zoroastrianism under the Persian captivity. So prior to Persian captivity and the encounter with Zoroastrians who saved the Jews from captivity by the Babylonians, the only mentions you have of punishment of the Israelites are punishments by God. God directly punishes the Israelites by causing them to have strife. And the other stuff about hell and good and bad and moral decisions and whether you go to heaven or hell, that came from Zoroastrianism. So most Christians, Muslims, and Jews haven't examined the historical development of the changes in the theology within Judaism and in contact with Zoroastrianism and other faiths, how it evolved into later Judaism and Christianity.
Well, man.
Well, for one, I am glad that I'm an atheist because my best friend, and let me just a little story. He's from Syria. He's a Christian, and he's a refugee. He fled from Syria after being in captivity for an entire year, being physically tortured for an entire year, only because he was a vocal Christian in an Islam country. If
Yeah.
God is just and didn't want to punish him, he did a pretty bad job on him because he's one of the nicest guys and the more compassionate people that I know.
Yeah, the thing is, when people
So-
experience really intense, kind of life-alteringly difficult situations, or just amazing events that they attribute to the explainable by God, the intensity of that experience tends to correlate with how firmly they believe and how much it alters their views and cements those views for the long term. So it makes sense that an extreme event like being conquered and liberated made them favorable to the ideas and beliefs of the people who liberated them, and they regarded the king of Persia as a savior. And he's one of the few foreign leaders who's not a Jew who they, are very, very praising of. And it's just like when you pray that the rain will stop, and it does. In the moment when you really wanted to prove to your friend that it's important that you could do this, it's much more of an important story to you and changes your life than if it was just on a random Tuesday and it didn't help you convince your friend or something like that, right? And I think anyone who holds an Abrahamic faith, or any other religion for that matter, if you want to be taken seriously, by me at least, I think you need to look at the origins of your faith, look into the archaeological and scholarly tradition that studies the origins of the faith, and do an honest comparison between, do you believe a set of beliefs that are handed to you at the end without knowing where it came from, or do you look into where the sausage came from and still hold that belief after understanding all the history of how human beings compiled and changed and altered and revised their beliefs in response to drastic circumstances like being invaded and held in captivity and having Jerusalem sacked and so on. All these pivotal events changed theology drastically.
All right, so next guy, next speaker.
For
Yeah.
people in the audience who are not familiar with Zoroastrianism, it is the polytheistic religion that was quite common in Iran before the Muslims took over in, I believe, was the 70s, and outlawed all other religions and brought in forced Islam on everybody. But
Next speaker, I think Zoroastrianism was the first monotheism. But anyway, next
Yeah, no
religion.
name.
I didn't say it was the first monotheism. I said the concept of hell, punishment. That was a change from Sheol. So
Next speaker.
the first references come directly after exile.
yeah, that's my understanding too.
This is a scholarly fact.
All right, no name. What's going
Hello,
on?
No Name. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. You have your microphone turned off at the moment. We're interested to hear what you have to say.
You may have to unmute yourself.
His microphone's off.
This is low-hanging fruit, but no name, no mic.
All right, I'm gonna move you back to the audience. Just unmute yourself, and we'll pull you back up though. Neutrino Skeptic.
Oh, what an interesting name, Neutrino Skeptic. The particles we have trouble capturing. What about Beamsy? Is Beamsy around?
Neutrino Skeptic is not responding. We'll go ahead and move on to Holy Spirit. I guess you invited Beamsy up.
It's okay.
Oh,
Holy Spirit.
And
Hold on,
Beamsy
Holy
can only
Spirit.
come on if he puts on pants.
Holy Spirit, welcome and thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Doing great. How are you all doing?
Great. What have you got for us today?
Well, I want to have a goal, right? And I want to know what are the main things for you guys that are stopping you from believing in God?
No evidence.
One thing.
Evidence.
Okay,
Yeah, I used to be a theist, so it's not stopping me. It
So
stops
do
you
you
from
not-
believing.
Do you not?
Although I have to say now I'm actually talking to the Holy Spirit, I might be convinced after this conversation. But,
And I have one additional answer, but let's hear what you got for evidence.
Okay, so you want evidence, right?
Sure.
And what would suffice as evidence for you?
Novel testable predictions or
I don't know.
anything that can differentiate imagination from reality.
So for me, because the deity is omniscient and omnipotent, I would require that they provide me with those capabilities for one fortnight, for 2 weeks, so I can experiment with it and confirm for myself.
Okay, but that's not,
Hang on,
place
hang on.
to do that.
You just asked what the criteria is. That's fine.
It's
And
still
now
evidence,
you're trying to
right?
disagree with the criteria. But
I have to jump in because I have to go to the bathroom. I have to take a quick leak. So
too much
How about-
information.
well, I want to explain while I'm leaving. I have to go for a minute, but I will be back. Okay.
The Holy
Well,
Spirit
what we'll
has to
do,
leave
we'll
you.
go on to our next guest, and then we'll bring you back on when you come
Yeah,
back.
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
And while you're doing that, I just want to say it is the lack of evidence plus the
It is-
fact that a mind seems to need some sort of physical conduit.
I've also I heard from Jefferson Spatchcock was having a conversation about this and was saying that by virtue of its of its attributes, then the only way to know that God exists would be to be omniscient oneself. So I agree with Randolph, which is like if it were to bestow omniscience upon me to know this, then so on and so forth. So
I'm asking for two characters, omniscience and omnipotence, not the others, not the other omnis.
I also like that they complain. And let me tell you something. If a god can do anything and everything, then by that definition, they should be able to do, once again, everything and anything.
And I think it would be irresponsible.
I have a very easy standard.
Peter, okay, go just a second, Peter. I think it would be irresponsible to take omnipotence without omniscience, because with omnipotence, somebody could do a lot of damage unintentionally and unknowingly. So go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I have 3 points. An all-knowing God knows the evidence that I need to be convinced of his existence. An all-powerful God is able to provide that evidence, and an all-loving God would want to give me the evidence that I need.
Ooh, all loving. That's an interesting take.
Although I
If
agree with
that is
TJump,
not
we don't need to
happening-
go to. We really don't need to go to such extremes. Such extremes would be great, but TJump's correct. I've always agreed with him on that. Novel testable predictions that enable us to determine the difference between reality and imagination. Fantastic stuff. We could just go with that.
I'm fine with that too.
At the bare minimum, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so if I'm going off of our previous guest who has God talking to him and performing miracles live when he asks for them, I mean, that is pretty convincing. That would convince me as well. But I can't do anything, apparently, in order to get God to talk to me and to let me experience those things. So it's not up to me. It's really up to God. He needs to, if he wants me to know that he exists, which he, according to the Bible, he does, then it's really easy.
In those Abrahamic religions, he was doing it all the time. He was basically a first-person character in the Torah and the Gospel.
Can we move on to like the next speaker or
Funny
something?
how all of that
Move on to
stopped
the
when
next
people
speaker.
had cameras and phones and stuff.
Next speaker.
Yeah.
Are we move
We'll
on?
go
to
ahead and move on to the
Okay.
next one. Your Honor, we've got you next up.
Your Honor, come on up. The bench is yours.
And if anybody else would like to come up here and chat with us, try to prove your
Bring-
God,
bring the
ask
gavel.
questions, feel free to raise your hand.
Hello, Your Honor. How are you? You gonna bang a gavel for us, please? How are you doing today?
Hello, Randolph. How are you? Hi, TJump. Hi, Amy. These are the people that I know. Hi, everyone else that I don't know. My take on it, I listened to the conversation. I listened to the part where you say that if you die and God hasn't given you, you have tried your honest best to come to the evidence that God exists, and you could not find that evidence.
Yeah.
So here, I want to ask you an honest question, since you mentioned that you honestly tried to come to that evidence.
Go for it. What's the
So
question?
my question to you is, when the evidence is presented to you, presented to you, are you treating that evidence without bias? And honestly,
Yes.
to me, it seems like anytime I listen to these talks, it doesn't seem to be treated with I would say enough seriousness. Like it's like the default is to just try to dismiss that evidence.
That's
and
how
I'll
evidence
give a couple.
works. So,
Yeah,
so like
TJump.
what you're supposed to do, an honest investigation of any evidence, is to try to disprove it. That's what science works as. So like a scientist will present a paper and say, here's my paper that I think works. And everybody else, all the other scientists, will try to disprove it. They'll be like, see if we can find the holes in it and prove it doesn't work. Because that's the honest way to investigate anything, is to show that it doesn't work. And if you can't, then it works.
I'm
Quick
sorry,
thing, Taco.
I would
Check
say that
the group DM, please.
that is half the truth. What
What?
you just said, that is half the truth.
What do you mean?
Because you would also try to see why it works.
What?
You would be trying both ways to see why it works and why it doesn't work.
No.
Yeah, and if
When
we
you
can
just decide to figure out why it doesn't work,
yes, and
you
if we can
ignore
come up,
why it works.
yes, and if we can ascertain a naturalistic explanation for why a thing works, then we don't need the God.
Well, so that's actually wrong.
Okay.
You don't try to ascertain why it works. First, you want to figure out, does it work? That's the question. So you try to disprove it. You try to falsify it. And if you can falsify it, then it does not
That is
work.
not true, and I can prove it to you right now.
Okay,
That is
go
not
for
true, and I can prove it to you right now.
Go for it.
In mathematics right now, there is a stick on the wheel of mathematics, which is the Riemann hypothesis. And every mathematician will tell you that if the Riemann hypothesis is true, but they tell you that a lot of theories have been based on the fact that it's true, and everyone believes it's true. Nobody can prove it yet.
Nobody,
but
no, wait,
everybody
one sec.
believes it's
Nobody
true
is
because
claiming
it works.
no one cares if mathematical objects exist. That's not the claim. So if you want a hypothetical
No.
model, wait, stop. We don't care about math.
Go
Math is conceptual. So if you want to claim like a mathematical object exists and you're going to prove it, we're going to try to disprove it. Mathematical proofs don't work that way. Mathematics and conceptual things are different, but we're talking about reality. You have a different problem. So like if you're saying God exists, you're making an empirical claim that you want to show it actually exists. This is not the same as a mathematical conceptual claim.
And just to bounce off what they were saying, that is the difference between creationists and the people who believe in science. When we talk about subjects like the Big Bang, evolution, how planets form, you can go to nature, you can go to John Hopkins, we can go to different scholarly, medical, or academic sources, and we can compare and contrast. We can do different tests and try and make sure we can replicate them. You cannot do that with God. And I have never seen a theist who believes in God present, here is my paper for the replicatable methodology that we have for tying God to reality.
Okay. Would you like an answer for that, Amy?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Because the reward in the religion is based on the word belief. And it's not based on actually proving something like mathematics or in physics or in astrophysics or some other type of science. So it is a belief, and you would find that billions of people are satisfied with the belief. That belief is so strong in them that they worship God like if they could see him. Now,
Okay.
the question that I want to continue with what I was saying before is the fact that it is illogical. It is illogical for something to come from nothing.
Sure.
Now, it is a burden on you until you can prove that something does come from nothing. Then the burden of proof is on you.
That's your position.
Yeah, it's the theist
well, let me
claim.
No one believes something came from nothing.
Let me lay this egg before you boil it. Let me lay this egg
Wait,
before you boil it.
before you do that, like, we don't believe something came from nothing. Nobody believes
Yeah.
that. So I don't know why you're
That's
bringing
not
it
our
up.
position.
Okay. So
That's
okay.
technically, Your Honor, as a theist, that is your position, because there was God and there was nothing. There was God and nothing else, and then everything exists because God magically made it out of nothing.
Okay, I'm
That's
gonna
your
create
position.
a new
That's
fallacy.
not ours.
I'm gonna create a new fallacy for you guys. I'm gonna call it the fallacy of keep the change. Okay.
What?
Because so far, what you have been able to do to try to disprove God in the theory of the Big Bang, we had a problem because we had a problem of where stuff came from. So we created this thing that at the Big Bang, matter and antimatter were created, which equals to 0, plus 1 minus 1 equals 0.
What?
And for some unknown reason yet, we were left with some matter that didn't annihilate each other, and that's the universe we see today. So I call that the keep the change theory.
What?
And then
none
the
of that,
same thing
none
happened.
of that matters. That's
let-
we have evidence to support this. This isn't just something we
Okay.
made up. So we have lots of evidence, like observations and predictions we can make to justify all of this. You don't have any of that of God. So
Observations could be explained in a million different ways.
sure.
And a lot of them could be logical and more and some new ways. I can give you some ways that are more logical than
Yes,
some theories
that's
right now.
true. But guess what? We made the predictions before we knew them. So people made predictions that if the naturalistic explanation of reality is correct, we'll make these observations when we look at the cosmic microwave background. We then looked and said, oh, we were right. So the fact of what makes something evidence is the ability to predict something before you know it and get it right. Naturalism has done that. Particle physics and cosmology have done that. God has not done that. So there's evidence for physics and naturalism.
That is not true. That is not true, TJump. Because I'm gonna tell you right now.
No, dude, no. Your Honor,
Even if I give you evidence,
Your Honor,
I'll give you a counter example. You want a
Okay,
counter
yes.
example
Give
to
me
prove that what
counter
you said is
example.
wrong?
Yes, give me counter
gotta hear
example.
this.
Okay, 1400 years ago, God in the Quran said that we have created the universe and surely we are expanding it. This is talking to people who are living in the desert, who don't know the basic science that you know right now, and God is talking to them about expanding the universe. 1923, you give
Your Honor,
1923, you give a man a Nobel Prize for discovering.
Your Honor, stop. We got it. The Quran claimed that the universe was expanding. TJump, would you like to counter with what the Bhagavad Gita says?
Yeah, the Bhagavad Gita predicts the age of the Earth is 4.3 billion, which is actually accurate. Yours doesn't predict that. So if being able to predict a generality is evidence of God,
don't make a wrong, T-Jump. Two rights don't make a wrong.
What?
Right?
What?
No.
Two rights don't make a wrong.
Your Honor.
Giving me
Your Honor. Stop.
No. What we're saying is two wrongs don't make a right. Being able to guess something correctly
I'm telling
isn't
you
evidence.
example here that two rights don't make a wrong.
No. Guessing a random fact correctly is not evidence. So the Quran getting a general fact correct that the stuff is expanding is just a guess. That is not evidence. Like it would be evidence.
How much contemplation, in your opinion, that deserves? How much
Zero.
contemplation?
Nothing.
Would
It's
you
garbage.
say the number
It's
from 1
garbage.
to 10? 0?
Garbage. Zero.
Okay, this is what I'm. Okay, thank you very much for making my point for me. This is the point that I started with. That no matter what evidence would be,
That's not evidence
for you. The bias that you would have.
No, there's no bias. That's not evidence.
Right away.
No,
But
that's
you're
objectively.
evidence.
No,
You
no,
just-
no,
listen, you
no.
contradicted yourself
Stop and
sometimes
listen.
in
Let me
one
answer your
sentence.
question
You
so I can
just
explain
asked-
it to you. Stop talking. So
Okay,
that
go
is
ahead.
provably
Go ahead.
not evidence. No, it's called an ambiguity fallacy. We know it's not evidence because in any book you have, there's going to be specific examples of words that you can interpret to mean essentially whatever you want. It is not evidence. What you need is something
This is
specific.
clear
That's why in
language. There is
stop
no
talking,
interpretation
stop
left.
talking,
This is
stop
clear
talking,
language.
stop talking. In science, we know this is a fallacy because we know that we don't accept generalities and ambiguities in scientific papers because anybody can make generalities and ambiguities. You need a specific prediction of a specific thing that we don't know yet. Ambiguities are not a specific prediction. They are not evidence. You can find ambiguities in literally any book. You can find dates of people being murdered in Moby Dick. Does that mean Moby Dick is a special book from the revelation of God? No, it means you got a lucky guess. That's it. So no, this is not evidence. What you need is evidence of something specific. The Quran is garbage.
TJump, is this
prove this
statement
point-
ambiguous?
Hold on,
Is this
Your Honor.
statement ambiguous?
To
I'm
prove
sorry.
the
Is this
statement-
statement ambiguous?
Wait,
let him-
there
let him-
is 7 of
yeah,
you
what's-
guys. At least let me talk.
What's the
Can I at
statement?
least? Okay, finish the statement.
Okay. This statement, answer yes or no. Is this statement ambiguous? We have created the universe.
Yes.
And surely we are expanding it.
Yep, that's a super ambiguous.
Is this left for interpretation?
Yes, that's super ambiguous.
Very ambiguous.
Okay, I'll let the audience judge that. I'm not gonna.
So, Your Honor, the
Okay,
whole
well, wait,
point.
can I
the
just
whole,
ask a question
Yeah, go ahead,
just
Amy.
real
I'm sorry.
quickly?
Go ahead, Amy.
Why do you think that the Bhagavad Gita was able to get so close with the age of the universe?
Well, I'm gonna tell you why. You want me to answer you, but I've got to be able to finish my answer.
Sure.
Okay.
You got okay. If I can, you see, we think that we have the absolute truth right now, and I can prove it to you right now. I don't know how to send you images or proof or whatever, but I can prove it to you, and I can back my evidence. For example, we think, and the common thing that we say is that people used to think that the sun and the moon and everything orbited around the earth. I can show you actual images of artifacts that have the sun in the center and it has the planets orbiting around it with the moon next to the earth.
How does
Now,
this answer the
would
question?
You say
I have no idea.
It doesn't.
how does that answer the
But I was
question?
waiting.
How does that answer the question? How does that answer the question? How do you know what I'm saying? How do you know that those people at that time weren't given knowledge?
Because they were wrong?
They weren't going based on their scriptures.
Because they were wrong? What?
Your Honor, I don't know where you're going with it. It's weird and irrelevant. The whole point.
I'm
No,
answering
Your
the common
Honor,
example
no,
TJump
Your Honor,
gave me.
stop. Your Honor, stop. The point of the question was, you said that the Quran is valid because it makes a statement in there about the expansion of the universe, and it says it very kind of ambiguously. We countered, or TJump countered, with the fact that the Bhagavad Gita makes a prediction about the age of the earth before they could possibly have known it. And that prediction is older because the Bhagavad Gita had been around much longer than the Quran. But by your logic, that means that what the Bhagavad Gita claims is also true. So, but you don't hold to Hinduism or Buddhism. You don't hold to. So which one is true, Islam or Buddhism?
And I want to know why. That is
okay.
the crux. How did they get it right? They got something right.
Okay, this is I'm assuming this is not a rhetorical question. You do actually want an answer.
Yes, it is a legit
okay.
question.
Okay. In Islam, we believe in every religion that came before us. Okay. We believe that God sent 124,000 prophets and different scriptures and different messages and different messengers. We believe in Jesus, we believe in Moses, we believe in Noah, we believe in every religion that came before us. Some religions that weren't mentioned to us in our book, we neither believe in them or disbelieve in them, but we hold the possibility that they could be one of the 124,000 religions that were revealed. So if you tell me that somebody predicted the age of the earth in the Hindu civilization thousands of years ago, I would tell you that the possibility it could be one of the 124,000. So you just made the assumption that I don't believe in any of those.
That's fair. That's fair enough. So the question here is, if we put that in a paper, the quote about we created the universe and caused it to expand or something like that, if we put that in an academic paper, would it be passed as a genuine prediction in an academic paper, or would it be considered ambiguous? What do you think?
Would be considered a prediction that came to be true. A book predicted that the universe was expanded when everybody thought the universe was static.
No. Wait.
Every
The question,
scientist,
was, would a person in a scientific paper think this was a genuine, accurate prediction or an ambiguity fallacy? Now, if you know anything about science,
in my honest opinion, 100% yes. If that's all what you want me to say without saying anything.
That's fine. That just means you don't understand science. So in science, for something to be specific, you're not allowed to put generalities like we created the universe and we caused it to expand. You need an expansion rate, a rate of prediction, a time period, a measurement metric, a confirmability, falsifiability. You need all these things. Just saying I caused stuff to expand without giving us specifics that could show you're wrong, a falsifiability criterion, is called an ambiguity fallacy.
You know that is not true, TJump.
It is true.
You know what you just said is not true.
What? No, it's exactly true. It's literally the scientific method.
Not true. You know that for years we've been just talking about a particle called.
Stop.
Listen, I could be your grandpa, TJump. Don't say kid. Your honor.
Just stop. So no, what I literally said is literally the scientific method. You need specific predictions or it's garbage and no one cares about it. This is literally just basic science. If you don't know this, you know literally nothing about science. The reason we accepted general relativity, Einstein's theory, is because he made a specific prediction with an actual number that said that we were going to predict curvature of light around the sun that could be measured and was confirmed, along with many other predictions that could be measured and confirmed. None of those are in the gibberish that you read from the Quran. What you read in the Quran is called an ambiguity fallacy. We need specifics in science. We don't accept ambiguities.
So, and TJump, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but Islam being one of the younger religions, one of the younger faiths, and Islam being aware of the other faiths that pre-existed it. So Islam, by virtue of just people interacting with one another. So Islam was aware, the Muslims were aware that Hindus existed, that Buddhists existed, that Christians existed, that these things existed prior to its own existence. Then Islam, or the Quran saying that Allah sent all of these prophets out throughout the world, and that's why other religions get things right sometimes. But Islam being the newest, isn't that post hoc?
Yeah, I mean,
isn't that Islam just trying to reconcile why other religions are correct sometimes? And
well, I've never heard the position that he thinks all the previous religions before Islam were true. That's a really strange position. But if that was the case, then he'd also have to take credit for all the things they got wrong as well. So it's a very strange position that I don't think he really wants to, that most Muslims would probably defend. But if he wants to take that, okay, it's an interesting.
Yeah. I'm just trying from a perspective of like, I've got these ideas for a religion, but there are all these religions that existed before me, but I'm going to create this new one, but I have to reconcile all the stuff that the other religions got right. So in order to make mine the most true, then I have to reconcile this. And the best way to do that is to say that my God has sent down prophets throughout all of human history, and some of them have inspired other doctrines, and the reason they got those right is because Allah sent them down. So it's literally justifying my own. It's using other people's work and other people's lucky guesses to literally say, oh, well, that's because my God is true.
Yeah, that would make sense logically if you wanted to think of like how they came about with the idea. Sure.
Right. Okay. So it's just like.
Well, I think this would be. I've never heard that either. I think that would, I guess, quasi fix a problem. However, when I hear that, it kind of Scientology-ish. Like, yeah, sure, we accept all the prophets. Then you get in, and they're like, it's really the Xenu guy.
It's like some Mormon shit, you know?
Exactly. And so, not only that, I think this is heresy. I think that if you were to go to a normal Sunni or Shia, they would say that it was only the people of the tribe. It was very specifically the Abrahamic. Funny. Now, I will say, at the end of this, we don't care though. Like, I mean, it's a no true Scotsman to say you're not a true Muslim. You can be whatever you want. Maybe you have the right one. It's just
wait, Christianity came before Islam, right? So that means that Jesus was true, Son of God, right? Because all the previous religions are true.
You want an answer, right?
Yeah, because you said all the previous religions that came before Islam are true. Christianity came before Islam, and Christianity says Jesus is God, right?
Okay. In Islam, it was revealed to us that Jesus is one of the greatest prophets ever sent to
Was
humanity.
he the son of God? Was he literally God?
He was not the son of God.
So
Islam
Christianity
came
was
to warn us
wrong.
that God does not have a son. Yeah, so the religion that was sent to the Christian is right, and it was revealed to us that the details about Jesus being the son of God were added by humans. So we believe in the religion. We don't agree about the details, like the details of the Trinity and the Son of God and things like that.
But how do you know which is right? You're just gonna say the Trinity is wrong, but hey, they got that one thing in Hinduism about the age of the universe. So, guess what? God kind of
Yeah,
right
there are a lot of passages in the Quran to explain to you why it's wrong and why it does not
Yeah,
fit the
this
profile of
It's
this literally
cherry
of an
picking.
all-powerful God. I mean, I'm not here to bash Christianity,
Yeah.
and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, this was
I'm
just
sorry,
there is a
it was just an
there is
interesting
a
point when
very
you said
thin
that all
line.
the other religions prior to Islam are true. That's just a really strange claim. I don't think it's really significant to anything.
No, it is not. I actually just sat there and laughed because I listened to Popcorn because I just dismissed one of your biggest cliches, which I always hear you guys attack the theists, that why is not this religion is true? Why not this religion is true? And then when I gave you a statement that is provable in the Quran, I don't even have to go to the Hadith, in the Quran, that it tells us that in order for me to be a Muslim, I have to believe in all prophets that preceded Muhammad. And when I gave you that, I listened to the Popcorn because it's like I demolished one of your houses. Honestly,
No,
I was
no,
laughing
you
at that.
didn't. No, you didn't, because you stated something in the Quran that happened to be true. There's a lot of incorrect shit in the Quran as well, but you stated one thing in the Quran that happened to be true that somebody got right. Great. We stated we cited something that is far older. We stated something that we gave you evidence of something that is far older, of a prediction that was far older and far more accurate than what is in the Quran. And you countered with Islam has explained that because those prophets got it right because they were sent by Allah.
No, I think his point was correct, that if you're bringing up the criticism of Hinduism and he says, well, they're all right. I mean, that's a valid critique of that argument. If our argument is that predictions are evidence of religions and this prediction of this religion is better or whatever, and he says, well, they're all true. I mean, that's perfectly fine. It leads to contradictions, but sure,
but
whatever.
Isn't that post hoc? Doesn't that mean that Islam is essentially just post hoc reasoning?
No, it doesn't
It's
necessarily
taking all
mean
the
that.
good stuff from all the previous religions and
no, it doesn't necessarily mean
amalgamizing them
that.
into something else?
No,
doesn't-
it's taking all the good stuff from the same source.
Wait, it doesn't matter. It's just irrelevant. It's just irrelevant to the point. Like, who cares? So our point is that the ambiguity of saying we created the universe and expanded isn't evidence, and it's not. It wouldn't be accepted in any academic paper that was relevant at all. And whether or not you want to claim that's like, I didn't bring up the Hinduism thing. That was, I think, JL mentioned it, and I talked about it, but it's not really important to the point whatsoever.
Well, I brought it up to say that just because a book makes a correct prediction doesn't mean that everything that's entailed in that book is correct. It's not proof of anything.
Well, let me answer you. Okay, let's follow the steps of what just happened. The first step is, in order for me to believe in a book, it needs to make a novel falsifiable or whatever prediction. And then after I give you that prediction, then you say, just because the book gives me the prediction, it doesn't mean it's true. And even if I go to step 3, you will go to step 4. This is called tennis. I call this tennis.
No.
Like,
So wait. Your first statement was correct. In order to make something believable, it needs to make novel testable predictions. One, usually not enough, but a novel testable prediction has to be specific. Can't be ambiguous. So ambiguous things are not predictions, because ambiguous things can be interpreted in many different ways. And if they can be interpreted in many different ways, that means that there's many different predictions being made. So it's not specific. It's not a prediction. So the problem with all the things in the Quran, and it's not just that one, all of the things the Quran supposedly predicts are all super ambiguous, and none of them actually say anything of value whatsoever. There is actually the Hinduism example was a good example of an actually legitimate prediction. Still only one, and it's not good enough because it's just one. But yes, you were correct that if you needed to believe a book, it would need to make lots of novel testable predictions and get them right. Then it would make it reasonable to believe. None of the holy books have ever done that. Even the collection of all of them have never done that. And so you don't have that.
Okay. Listen, I do not like to keep going with these so-called novel
Testable
predictions.
predictions.
Okay, testable predictions.
Yep.
I don't like to keep going with those
Why?
because I know by experience, by talking to atheists, I know that it's gonna turn into a tennis game. And I don't like to do that. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example right now. When I told you that the Quran talked about resurrection, and
What?
God said that humans claim that we are not able to reassemble their bones, and God said we are even able to reconstitute their fingerprints. I mean their fingertips. This is what it says in the
Yes,
Quran. Their
I'm familiar.
fingertips.
Yes, I know
Okay,
that
so
quote.
let me lay this egg, please. So with God says, if you believe that we're not able to reconstitute humans' bones after they're dead, we are even a step further able to constitute their fingertips.
Is this a
And
prediction
here,
or something?
I mean, anyone without bias will actually believe God is talking about fingerprints, because there are so many billions of people that lived, maybe trillions of people that lived on this planet, who have all different fingerprints,
What?
and God said He can make every single one back to the state of His fingertips, and
Yeah.
then in the late
Wait.
19th
What are
century,
you getting at?
in the
Like, this
late
has nothing
19th
to do
century,
with
we just discovered
fingerprints.
that humans.
Wait. This is
Let me
not.
just
This is
finish.
not a prediction
Stop.
of fingerprints. This is not a prediction of fingerprints. This is a prediction that God is powerful enough to be able to remake everyone down to their smallest part. Has nothing to do with fingerprints. There's literally nothing in there about fingerprints. No rational mind would ever say fingerprints.
Listen. I already listen. Here is a novel. Testable
prediction.
Testable prediction.
Oops.
Okay.
Freudian slip.
Okay.
My.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? It's probably.
What is it?
It's
Go
probably
ahead.
it should be called that anyway.
What's the
Anyway,
prediction?
so to make a very long story just long, I just made that prediction. I just made a prediction that no matter what I give you, you're gonna play tennis with me and you're gonna refute it. So I didn't expect any different. I told you that in the beginning. That's why I did
Well, if you give me garbage, yes, I'm going to disprove your garbage. So what's your other?
That's why I didn't want to use your
Your Honor,
so-called
stop. Your Honor, you do realize that human beings have been born with identical fingerprints, right?
Do you realize there has been trillions of people?
No, there has not been trillions of people.
Your Honor, you do
That's
know
right.
that human beings have been born with identical fingerprints, right? Human beings that are not related, that are not like literally of the same family. That people have been born on the planet that have identical fingerprints.
Okay, hold on. Let me ask you this.
No. You know that, right? No, it's like, Your Honor.
No,
it's
not true.
Yes, it is true. It is true. We literally have cases on the books of individuals being sought out and being arrested for crimes they didn't commit because they shared the same fingerprints as the perpetrator. This is something that has literally happened.
Let me explain to you why that is. Because let me explain to you. Okay. Because in the systems we have to retrace fingerprints, there are so many criteria that we measure, okay? And those criteria, they could be refined. The same we talk about like on your screen right now, we talk about 360 or 480p or 720p or 1080p. The more detailing you go in, the more difference you will find. And it will go all the way from 10 to the power of 12 to 10 to the power of 60, the difference in a human's fingerprints. So if you use smaller criterias, okay, you will find that. But if you dig in deeper, you will find that those people do not have identical fingerprints.
Okay, what's the point? Like, who cares whether or not people have identical fingerprints? What is, like, nowhere in the Quran does it say no two people have the same.
Humans being okay.
Where in the Quran does it say that no two fingerprints are the same?
You don't like me. You don't want me to answer.
Well, no, because wait. So the question is where in the Quran does it say no two people have the same fingerprint? Where is that said? That exact phrase.
Okay, it also doesn't say TJump has different fingerprints than Amy.
Yeah, where does it say the word fingerprints in the Quran?
It also doesn't say TJump, Jamie. I don't know why I called you Jamie, but
I don't. You can call me whatever you want. I don't care. Where does it say fingerprints in the Quran?
This came out. Okay. This is tennis.
What?
This
This
is
is not
tennis.
tennis. This is me asking you a specific question. Where does it say the word fingerprints? You keep bringing up fingerprints. I didn't bring up fingerprints. You did. Where does it say fingerprints in the Quran? It doesn't say it anywhere. It's
Okay.
not in there.
Any honest person say that God for remaking a whole human being, God talks about not only that, I am
Fingertips.
even means even harder. I am even able to recreate his fingertips.
Yeah.
So
And
now,
so
what's so unique about the fingertips if it's not the fingerprints? Give me another prediction. If you want to
it's the
dismiss
smallest,
it, give me
most
another
minute.
prediction. What is it?
It's because it means the smallest, most minute part of a human, and that's been used many times. Like, did everybody in that time period who used the word fingertips, did they all mean fingerprints?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna answer you. That you see,
yes or no
a
would be
lot of times
great.
I hear a lot of atheists say,
Wait.
well,
I asked you a question. So the word fingertip is used millions of times during the time period of Muhammad. Did they all mean fingerprints?
that word nobody understood nobody understood that was something special about. Everybody saw that they had fingerprints. Nobody understood that it was special until the late 19th century.
Right, because people use that
And
term
then
a lot,
we will
right?
go back and reflect on the verse that says that remaking the
Wait,
fingerprints
go back,
of
go
every
back,
human
go back.
that ever lived is actually harder than making
Go
the
back.
human himself.
Go back. So we understand that the word
It's like the QR code.
Stop. The word fingertip was used really commonly back then. It's a pretty common phrase to use to create someone to their fingertips because it's the smallest part of somebody, the most minute, insignificant part. And people would use that phrase. That phrase is pretty common. Yes, it is. And so it's not actually that surprising that
is not true. An
Muhammad
eyelash
would
is
want
smaller
to
than a
praise.
fingertip.
No, it doesn't make a difference. That they could use that phrase to mean that God was powerful enough to create even your smallest part. It has nothing to do with the fingerprint. This is why it's called an ambiguity fallacy. This is why it wouldn't be accepted in a scientific paper. If you want to say fingerprint, you say fingerprint. If you don't know what a fingerprint is and you're referring to something ambiguous, you say fingertip. That's why what everything in the Quran says is an ambiguity fallacy. If it was actually a prediction, it would just say fingerprint, problem solved.
Well, let me answer you. Let me answer you, TJump.
That wasn't a question.
I started to answer you earlier and never finished. I'm gonna hope this time it's gonna work. I said, a lot of times I hear the atheists talking about, well, I'm not talking just about Islam, I'm talking about every religion. They say, well, they wait for something to happen scientifically and they look in their book and they say, ha, tada, here it is. Okay. And why don't they come up with something first?
What?
And then
I have no idea what you're talking about right now. Come up with what first?
Okay. So and then I have a verse in the Quran, which is a book of signs.
No, it's not.
Each verse in the Quran in Arabic is called ayah, which means sign. Okay. And God in the Quran, there is a verse that says that to each sign a time where it would be prophesied. So for example, the sign of the fingerprints was prophesied in the Quran 1400 years ago.
Where does it say fingerprint anywhere in the Quran?
What it would happen is when a human, this is not another God.
Oh my God. What you're saying is so insanely stupid. Stop.
Let me finish.
No, you've already gone far enough. You've gone far. Like the fact that the Quran says an ambiguous phrase that refers to a part of the body, and then you discover something about that part of the body that we didn't know yet, isn't a prediction. That's stupid. That's literally dumb. If you think that's evidence, you have the dumbest criterion of evidence ever. Sure, go for it.
Hold on. Can I jump in real quick? Because fingerprints as means of identification have been used by the Babylonians since about 1792 or 1715 BCE. So the fact that the Quran mentions this is something that by then had been known to humans for about almost 2,000 years. It's not really something that God brought to our knowledge.
Yeah, and it doesn't actually mention any, and the Quran doesn't mention anything about adermatoglyphia, which is a genetic condition in which people don't develop fingerprints.
Yeah. So
Well, you realize
so
you
the
realize that what you
fingerprint
just said has
issue
nothing
is
to do with that. But what I said, but I would like to answer Peter if you don't mind. You know, this is very interesting what you said, Peter. And what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna say that what you said is wrong. I find it very interesting that they know something in the BC back to the exact year. I mean, something like this. I mean, we're not talking about when some king was born or something.
I literally said anywhere between 1792 and 1750. So that is not the exact year. But I can help you out. It also was practiced in China, at least 300 BC, as a means of identification, not only the fingerprint but the entire palm print.
Actually, in the Chinese gambling,
if you just go look.
In ancient Chinese gambling, they put a number of fingerprints in the books with people's names.
Can I just cut in here for a second? I'm looking at the surah, and I want to ask the first question to you, Your Honor. Can I ask, what is the chapter name of the surah that you're reading?
Okay, I could not recall the chapter name.
Oh, it's called The Rising
hold
of
on.
the Dead.
Hold on. Let me think for a second.
Terminology.
I didn't feel like
honestly,
making an effort.
I think at this point,
it's called Al-Qiyamah.
This is the problem with the terminology you mentioned earlier.
Oh no, it's called Al-Qiyamah. Do you know what that's translated into English?
Okay, I know exactly what it means, 100% what it means in Arabic. I'll let you find the best effort translation in your language.
Sure. It's called The Rising of the Dead. And I don't see fingertips, I see fingers. We are able to restore his very fingers.
Okay, that's the translation, and that's not what it means.
Oh no, it's supposed to be...
is the last... Banana, in Arabic, it says banana.
Banana?
It says bala qadirina ala... It's funny, but you know, when I just joined Discord just for TJump. You know, believe it or not, I like TJump.
Thank you, appreciate
it. You're welcome. You know, something funny. You know, let me say something between parentheses. Listen, something between parentheses. I had to accept the rules of
Discord.
Discord before I joined, and one of the rules says only English, and I was like, okay, so I guess I can't read you the verse.
Well, I mean, I don't care if it's English or Arabic. Okay, the chapter is The Rising of the Dead. Give us the context why fingerprints would be in the chapter The Rising of the Dead.
At this point, I think we could probably move on to the next person because we're just going back and forth about the Quran and everything that. Trust me, but Your Honor, I almost called you banana. Trust me, Your Honor, you can bring up whatever you want in the Quran. And most of us can probably knock it down. Peter Tucker will because he's literally like done an entire expose with R and Ra on the Quran itself. Okay. It can all get knocked down. Okay, just citing the Quran is not going. Citing the Quran. Can I say? Your Honor, can I finish? Can I finish, please? Your Honor, citing the Quran is not going to get you anywhere. All right, so just like if a Christian were up here and saying, "Well, you got to go to the Bible," that's not evidence. It's not evidence. It's so. Probably find better evidence.
The series that we did, the entire panel, apart from Arn Ra, were all ex-Muslims that could read and speak Arabic. So there was no translation. The whole thing was done. Arn looked up different translations and then had the entire panel explain to him whether or not the translations were correct. So
okay. Let me can I say a closing statement?
Sure.
I don't know who's the mod.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. First I would like to thank Warren because he really did me a great favor because what he did, he just solidified the first point that I made when I joined in. Okay. The sentence that he said whatever points you will bring from the Quran, we will knock it down. And this is exactly what I said in the beginning. He did not say we will process it and try to understand it and try to make a decision based on what you brought up. He said we will knock it down. I already predicted that. I know you will try to do that.
It's entailed, Your Honor.
Okay.
It's entailed. Like literally, we'll knock it down because we've gone through this before. The arguments the arguments you're bringing up are not new. These are conversations that we have had many, many times before.
Also,
No.
Your Honor, I wasn't speeding. You can't prove it. No.
Also, objection, Your Honor. Objection, Your Honor. Amy pointed out kind of the smoking gun, which is absolutely verified by anyone who's looked it up since she mentioned it, which is that there was extensive use of fingerprints for identification purposes in Babylon and in China and other places that's documented. The use of it for criminology is a recent innovation, but the use of it to identify family members and business deal partners goes way back. So I hope the next time that you're talking about these supposed miracles, that you'll do the intellectually honest thing and credit Amy for having informed you that that actually is not a good claim of prophecy.
It's not a
because it actually was
prediction. They
widespread.
already knew it. That's
Yeah. It's not a prediction. It's
Okay,
ex eventu. They already knew it.
okay, so I would
Send
like
him
you. I
up.
would like you to take the same statement. I would like you to take the same statement and give it to the scientific community, who credited a person in England in the late 19th century about discovering that fingerprints are unique and stuff. And this is what's over many books and many.
How could they discover something that was known to humanity for thousands of years already?
Okay,
They
you're gonna
they
have.
didn't know at the time.
You're gonna have.
They didn't know
you're
at the
gonna
time.
have
So
to
it's
tell
very
them-
simple. Just to get this through. Okay, they didn't know at the time. A lot of these discoveries around the world weren't compared until recently.
You know, I'm gonna give you credit about what you just said. I'm gonna agree with you about this for the first time.
Thanks.
I have read okay, but because I'm trying to be honest, I'm not just trying to knock down everything you say. I'm trying to be
Yeah.
honest. So I said, I remember in the late 90s, it was a prediction about 7 planet alignment, and it was credited to 2 scientists from our era. And I was looking at a 1945 National Geographic, and it was made by someone that I forgot, it was 2003 or something. It was going to be that alignment. Don't quote me on the year, guys. I don't remember exactly what the year, but it was like something around.
By the way, I just
Okay.
checked. I just checked you.
Oh, I do.
The first European to figure out the individual fingerprints was German, Johann Christoph Andreas Meyer, and that was in 1788. So not someone from England.
All right, I gotta go. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.
You got that wrong.
Have a great day.
Like,
Thanks for
follow,
coming,
and
TJump.
subscribe on